This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now for August.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
1 furlong to go. War Emblem is still there. War Emblem, and he's pulling away. He's got another gear. War Emblem coming down to the final 16. Now he's in front by 3, and now he's going to win it. War Emblem has won the Derby in front-running fashion.
Just over half a furlong to go in the Oaks. Believe you can. Surges to a lead of a length and racing towards the line. Believe you can. Wins the Oaks for Rosina Pravnik. Believe you can, took the Oaks.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Extra Heat spurts away 3/16 out in the Fritchie. Kimberlotta running stoutly on the inside, trying to capture second from Prize Stamp, followed by Gold Mover, 1/8 of a mile to go. Extra Heat put to pressure, driving 3.5 lengths with the 16th to come now from Kimberlotta and Prize Stamp and Gold Mover. They can't beat the Heat. Extra Heat, she wins it by 2.5 in 1:22 and 3.
There's an 1/8 of a mile to go. Ganadora fights back inside Angel Nadeshiko. Kirsten Bosch bearing down in the center. It's Ganadora or Kirsten Bosch. Kirsten Bosch coming with big strides late. Kirsten Bosch, Ganadora digging in. Here's the line. Photo finish in the La Cañada. Kirsten Bosch and Ganadora in a thriller.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. It is post time for the show that launched a network, the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires, right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, bearing in the backstretch. Happy to have you along for the ride again this morning, right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on Sirius 216, XM 204, affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net. And don't forget, you can listen to podcasts of this show and all of our programs on our website or wherever you are accessing your podcasts. Well, in the open to today's show, you just heard the stretch calls of War Emblem winning the 2002 Kentucky Derby and Believe You Can's Kentucky Oaks victory in 2012. There have been 148 runnings of the Kentucky Derby. War Emblem and Mandaloun are the only Derby winners to begin their 3-year-old campaigns in the Lecomte Stakes at the fairgrounds. The waters get a bit murkier when you start talking about Kentucky Oaks winners to have run in the Silverbulletday, but Believe You Can should be considered the only filly to run in that race and go on and win the Kentucky Oaks later in her 3-year-old season. Earlier this week, I asked our HRRN colleague, Kurt Becker, to take a bit of a deeper dive into the history of the Silverbulletday, particularly as it applies to producing Kentucky Oaks winners. And if you've been listening to Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, which we include every week here on the Equine Forum, you'll know that nobody, and I mean nobody, researches racing history like Kurt Becker. And Kurt pointed out that the Silverbulletday, as we know it, began in 2011. And during that span, only one starter in the Silverbulletday has won the Kentucky Oaks, and that was the aforementioned Believe You Can in 2012. The Rachel Alexandra was run as the Silverbulletday from 2001 to 2010. Prior to 2010, the Silverbulletday, as we currently know it today, was run from 1992 through 2010, but it was then known as the Tiffany Lass. Are you keeping up? So the Tiffany Lass is really the true ancestor of the current Silverbulletday Stakes. And from 1992 to 2010, there were 0 fillies to start in the Tiffany Lass and go on and win the Kentucky Oaks. So in 30 years combined of the Tiffany Lass and the Silverbulletday, only Believe You Can has started in that race and won the Kentucky Oaks. And some of you may be saying, all right, oh, wait a minute here, Barron. What about Summerly in 2005 and Proud Spell in 2008? Both of those horses started in a race called the Silver Bullet Day, also run at the fairgrounds, and later went on to win the Kentucky Oaks. And for those of you saying that, you would be right. But that particular Silver Bullet Day was actually the race which today is known as the Rachel Alexandra, which is run in mid-February, as it was when Summerly and Proud Spell won the race. So you really can't include them as winners of today's Silver Bullet Day Stakes, going on and capturing the run for the Lilies. So what does all of this mean for today's renewals of the Lecomte and the Silver Bullet Day? Well, obviously, history is not in your favor if you're planning on winning the Oaks or winning the Derby. It's kind of stacked against you. But then again, every year is different. And I think that we'll see some runners in those races later today that are fully capable of having an impact when we get to Louisville in 104 days. Coming up at 9:20 Eastern, I'm going to visit with owner Jerry Bach, who is going to watch his talented 3-year-old filly Chop Chop kick off her campaign in the Silver Bullet Day. She is the deserved 8-5 morning line favorite and was actually favored over presumptive 2-year-old filly champion Wonder Wheel in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies and was just a nose behind Wonder Wheel in the Darley Alcibiades in the race prior to the Juvenile Fillies. Keep that in mind. Chop Chop had a really good 2-year-old campaign. And if you heard Mark Cassey on this show last week, you heard him say that he didn't think Wonder Wheel ran her best race in the Alcibiades that day. She certainly brought her A game in the Juvenile Fillies. Chop Chop did not. And keep in mind that as well as Chop Chop ran in that narrow defeat, whether Wonder Wheel brought her A game or not, as well as Chop Chop ran in defeat that day, she is 2 for 2 on turf. She is 0 for 2 on dirt. Yes, I know, she's a nose away from being a Grade 1 winner on dirt. But she ain't. She didn't win that race. So the jury is still out as to whether she can buck history and be a legitimate Kentucky Oaks contender. And which filly is the real Chop Chop? Is it the filly that is 2 for 2 on turf and came up short in the Alcibiades and then threw in a clunker in the Juvenile Fillies? Are we going to see the Chop Chop today that was soundly beaten in the Juvenile Fillies, or are we going to see the Chop Chop that almost beat Wonder Wheel in the Alcibiades? The Lecomte is a much deeper race, and I do think there are a few horses who have the potential to join War Emblem and Mandaloon in the record books on the first Saturday in May. And the two who have accomplished the most in this year's Lecomte field to this point in their careers are Kentucky Jockey Club winner Instant Coffee and Street Sense winner Two Phils. Of the two, I think Instant Coffee checks more boxes that you like to have checked at this point. But we'll see how he's developed, both mentally and physically, from 2 to 3. That's always the big question. Right? We talk about it all the time. We talk about an athlete that is a tremendous, let's say, track star in high school and dominates the competition, goes to college, the waters are a bit deeper. If that athlete doesn't continue to progress and get better, they can't compete. They're not the big star. They're just another runner. Is Instant Coffee going to turn out to be a big star, or is Instant Coffee going to be just another 3-year-old here in 2023 as we make our way down the road to the Kentucky Derby? Two Phils, again, highly accomplished, winner of the Street Sense at Churchill Downs. Both of them have that going for them. They both won at Churchill Downs already. But Two Phils doesn't have the other portions of his resume that Instant Coffee has. And trainer Larry Rivelli is going to be with me here in just about 5 or 6 minutes, 8:15 Eastern. He is the trainer of Two Phils, and I'm going to ask him about his development Has he seen changes in Two Phils? Does he think that he is capable of moving in to the upper echelon and getting even better than he was as a 2-year-old? I'll talk to Larry about that coming up in just a few minutes. 8:35 Eastern, the return of Unsung Heroes, presented by Woodbine Entertainment. That's the segment, as you know, I get the opportunity to recognize individuals or organizations in our sport that do wonderful work behind the scenes and are vital to the success of thoroughbred racing, but you don't often hear about them. And today I'm going to welcome Kesmarc owner Kirsten Johnson. She does a fantastic job, and her entire team does a great job. Kirsten will be with me at 8:35. 9 o'clock, Jockey Keith Asmussen will join me to look back on what was an emotional win last weekend for him and for his family at Oaklawn Park. That's a great story. 9:20, as I mentioned, owner Jerry Bach talking about Chop Chop. And at 9:40, Laurel analyst Kali Francois is going to be with me to walk through the 6 stakes races on their card this afternoon. Laurel has a big program. She'll talk about all of those races at 9:40. 10 o'clock, it's time for your TwinSpires triple play. Scott Shapiro will be here with 3 races you can keep an eye on later today. 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history. And as always, we wind down the show. The final segment at 10:30, I ask, they answer. Trainer Dale Romans, turf writer Tim Wilkin will both be here. I'm going to talk to them about some of the hottest topics in the sport today, including the decision that was made by the Kentucky Racing Commission this past week, which set Twitter on fire. Racing Twitter exploded. I'm going to ask Dale and Tim about that decision, whether it was, many people felt it was a decision that is going to drive small trainers or trainers with small stables out of the sport, make it more difficult for them to get their horses into a race. I'll see if Dale and Tim agree. That comes up at 10:30. Poll question today. Who is your pick to win today's Lecomte at the fairgrounds? I'll give you the 3 favorites, and then you tell me if you think it's somebody else. You can choose Instant Coffee, Two Phils, Tappett's Conquest, or other. And if you do choose other, please comment and let me know what horse outside of the top 3 you feel can win the Lecomte later today. Who is your pick to win today's Lecomte at fairgrounds? Instant Coffee, Two Phils, Tappett's Conquest, or other. And you can go to @HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. If you don't do social media, you can always email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and let me know who you think is going to win that race, and I will pass along the results as we move throughout the program here this morning. Trainer Larry Rivelli is in the on-deck circle. He'll join me next to kick it all off for you. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Airdrie Stud is proud to announce the arrival of Grade 1 winning millionaire Happy Saver for the 2023 season. Happy Saver boasts one of the most important female families of the century, as his 3rd dam is Broodmare of the Year Weekend Surprise, dam of the legendary AP Indy. Undefeated in his first 5 starts, Happy Saver capped off his perfect 4-for-4 season with an emphatic victory in the historic Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
And Happy Saver stays undefeated. He steps up and he wins the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Airdrie Studs, Happy Saver. Think about it.
There's plenty to bet on at Gulfstream Park this January with the return of the championship meet, featuring live thoroughbred racing Wednesday through Sunday and the $3 million Pegasus World Cup on Saturday, January 28th. Enjoy the races outdoors from the Carousel Club or cool off in a private suite or a restaurant 10 Palms. For stake schedules, reservations, and tickets, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Adina Stallions set the gold standard, all #1 in their category. Point of entry, the #1 stallion by black type and greatest stakes winners standing in Canada.
Oh, the classy point of entry would not be denied.
Shaman Ghost, the number 1 second crop sire standing in Canada.
It's Shaman Ghost, an overwhelming force in the last 16th of a mile.
Signature Red, the number 1 stallion by percentage of black type winners standing in Canada.
Signature Red won his second Highlander in a row.
And Silent Name, the number 1 stallion by percentage of black type performers standing in Canada. A list that includes Grade 1 winner Silent Poet.
Silent Poet in front, Admiralty Pier out the ground, but Silent Poet has won the Highlander Stakes.
And don't forget Adina's new sire, American Guru. His first crop are now yearlings of 2023. American Guru, the son of Unbridled Song, whose family have already set their gold standards around the world.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN. Presented by TwinSpires.
They're off the turn, and it's Two Phils who comes away with the lead. It opens up by 2. Two Phils willingly, now by 4. Top Recruit fights on from second, and then it's Hayes Strike. Flip Barino is late on the scene. There's 1 furlong to go. Two Phils clear by 3's on the wrong lead. Hayes Strike's trying to make it tight late, time running out. Two Phils finding more. And Two Phils splashes home the 4-length winner. Hayes Strike ran well to be second. Flip Arena was third. And Top Recruit was fourth.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you on this Saturday morning. That was Travis Stone with the call of the Grade 3 Street Sense at Churchill on October 30th. Two Phils wrapping up his juvenile campaign with that 5 1/4 length win, and did it in the slop that day. You heard Travis say that he was splashing home, and he did, and that was an impressive win. We'll see if he can continue that momentum and even take the next step that he's going to need to take as he goes in the Lecomte later today. He is not the favorite. The favorite in that race is Instant Coffee for Brad Cox, and I think deservedly so. Instant Coffee, 2 for 3 lifetime, his only defeat coming in the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland. But his win in the Kentucky Jockey Club on November 26 was very impressive. They opted to take a different path with this horse, not run him in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and they go to the Kentucky Jockey Club instead, and they're rewarded with that impressive, very professional-looking win. And I think he beat a decent group that day, so Instant Coffee deserves to be the favorite in that race today. But Two Phils is out to prove that he belongs. And if he runs back to his street sense, he's certainly going to belong, but he's going to have to do that, and he's probably going to have to take another step forward, and nobody knows that better than his trainer, Larry Rivelli, who is with me now here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Larry, good morning.
Morning, guys.
Happy Lecomte Day, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, bud.
So, Two Phils, I was just talking about the fact that at this time of the year, that progression from 2 to 3 for not just Two Phils, but all of the horses that are now going to make their way down the road to the Kentucky Derby is so critical. Two Phils is going to have to move forward, just like everybody else. Are you seeing signs that he's done that, either mentally or physically?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with this horse, for sure. Everything he's done since the race has been, really good, positive. He's always been a smart horse, mature horse anyway, but every work that he's had prior to his race has just been like, wow, for me. And I don't like to wow him in the morning too much, but he's kind of doing it on his own.
You've been down this road before, Larry. Cocked and Loaded in 2015, the Tabulator in 2017, both ultra-talented. And I can remember you and I visiting on my Trainer Talk show back in 2017, and we were talking about the Tabulator. And you had given a quote, I think it was in a Daily Racing Form article, where you said you can tell a lot from a horse by the way that they're built, speed or long or neither. So tell me about the way that Two Phils is built and what he's showing you.
Well, he's kind of like he's actually grown a little bit since we bought him. Obviously, since he was with 2-year-old, but he's probably above average as far as size wise and just kind of conformation wise, he's fine. I mean, he's not perfect. Not many horses are, but just like kind of an average horse, but he's really real. If you look at him now, he's shining like a copper penny. He's doing good. His coat's good. He's always been sound, which is, that's 70% of the game if you keep them together. I mean, everyone's got the story of a horse that was the greatest horse they ever had that never made it. You know what I mean? It was like, all the trainers have those stories, but so far so good. He's stayed perfect. Haven't had a problem with him at all, ever, which is hard to find, to be honest with you.
He's won 3 of 5 lifetime starts, and I think people will look at his resume and say, okay, he won at Colonial, he won at Canterbury, and then he was thumped in the Breeders' Futurity. He just didn't run his race that day, but then he comes back with that huge win in the Street Sense, and everybody says, okay, maybe this horse is for real. So let's start there. What went wrong in the Breeders' Futurity?
Oh, it was a terrible trip. Terrible trip. Probably one of the, if you watch it, he was like in the 14 hole. He could never get over. He got pushed out. Never got to drop in. I was pretty upset after the race. And, I mean, I knew we were taking a shot, obviously coming off the Canterbury race, going into a Grade 1, which I normally don't do. And Jarrett said, Larry, I like the horse more now after the race than I did before. And I was like, okay. I'm like, that was pretty shitty. He goes, it was a terrible trip. And he said it to me twice. I like this horse more now than I did before the race. I said, okay, and that's what kind of made me lean towards running him back in a kind of a similar spot, Grade 2. I could have found an easier spot than that to run him in. And then he ran out of the screen. Now the track was sloppy, and maybe you could use that for an excuse if somebody else in the race didn't show up, which is possible. It might be sloppy today. It's supposed to rain in New Orleans, so this will obviously not be a worry for me if it does. That's for sure. But either way, dirt or mud, I'm pretty confident. I mean, I know his other horses in the races are just as good as him probably, but if he needs to take the step forward to win, I'm pretty sure he's gonna, at least by all of his last works and the way he came out of the race. And we gave him a little time in between trying to strategically map out a plan to get to the Derby if possible. If he's good enough.
What's that plan look like, Larry?
This race, skip the Risen Star and run Louisiana Derby.
So 2 preps before?
Yep. Now, if we need to make some other audibles, there's obviously other races out there, but that's the plan for right now. And that'll be a feat right there, too, if a plan goes the way it's supposed to.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. And some people would say, well, why not 3 preps? Why not get more foundation under the horse or get more points in the bank for a spot in the starting gate? All those types of things. Why'd you decide on 2 preps?
Well, I mean, if that's what it'll take, if I think that's what it'll take, then that's what I'll do. I can train them up to a race. I'm not worried about that. Every race takes something out of them. Horses are only born to run so many times. You know what I mean? So it's if I can get him there and in the same order without having to, bang his head so hard, that's what I would prefer to do. Now, like I said, a plan that you put together more than a race at a time with horses, their head will fall off tomorrow. So then it changes your plan. So I hate to do it, but you got to do it with this type of horse. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think it helps, and correct me if I'm wrong, the fact that he has 5 starts as a 2-year-old already under his belt. He has that solid foundation. Does that take some pressure off when you get to his 3-year-old campaign, not having to run him as much?
Absolutely. It's exactly the reason why. He's showing us everything he needs to show us. It's just a matter if he's good enough. You know what I mean?
Talking with trainer Larry Rivelli here on the Horse Racing Radio Network, getting ready to saddle 2 fills in today's Lecomte Stakes as he begins his 3-year-old campaign, and a campaign that Larry hopes will wind up beneath the TwinSpires at Churchill Downs on the first Saturday in May. I mentioned, Larry, you've been down this road a couple of times. Cocked and Loaded, the Tabulator, both very talented as juveniles. Didn't make it to the Kentucky Derby. You took other paths with them. What did you learn from those 2 experiences going down this road that's helping you now with 2 fills?
Well, not much that we probably didn't think I knew before. It's just everybody. It's so hard to, to get to a spot or to a race like this. And I mean, everybody in America, when they breed a horse or buy a horse, this is, their ultimate goal. So you got thousands of horses trying to do the same thing you're trying to do, and you just kind of need to appreciate the moment and appreciate the fact that you're there. And obviously, I'm a pretty competitive guy, so I don't like to go if I don't think I have a shot, and I won't. To be honest with you, if something happens or he doesn't move forward, then we're going to have a different path. But the way that he's going now and the way that he's training, I'm pretty confident he's going to show up today. And pretty much what I've learned from those other races is just you got to take everything day to day, one day at a time, and be thankful for what you got and happy where you're at. You know what I mean?
You mentioned being competitive. I'm assuming that dates back to your football days when you wanted to be a professional football player. You got the full scholarship to the University of Minnesota. By the way, congrats to your Golden Gophers on their bowl win this year, too, over Syracuse. Congrats to that.
Go Gophers, yeah.
You had to make a decision, football or a trainer. You said, okay, I wasn't good enough to make it to the pros. I'm going to start training racehorses for a living. I think you made the right call. I know you would like to be playing on Sundays, but you made the right call.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you. When I get up every day and I can't walk straight for the first 3 minutes, I guess I think maybe I did too.
Well, you can walk to the winner's circle. You can still get to there, right?
My man, you got it right. That's the plan. We can get there, that's for sure.
It's funny how nothing hurts when you're walking to the winner's circle.
When the adrenaline takes over, you're right. You're 100% right.
You mentioned Jareth and the conversation you had after that disappointing effort in the Breeders' Futurity. You said, Jareth said, I like this horse even more now than before the race, even though it was such a rough trip. Tell me more about – you stick with Jareth Loveberry here. A lot of other trainers would have said, you know what, I'm going for the bigger name and going to put somebody else on this horse. But you stick with Jareth. How come?
No, he's a good rider. I'm a pretty loyal guy, and it's just what I believe in. It's how I'm made, the kind of person I am. He's our guy, you know what I mean? He rides the horse. He's won on the horse. I mean, and shit happens in races all the time. We know you can blame the jock. You can blame, we don't ever blame the trainer, but you can blame the jock. You can blame the other jock. You can blame the horse. You can blame, whatever it is. But he knows the horse. He gets on the horse all the time. He breezes the horse all the time. And, he made a commitment to come to Chicago when Valdivia decided to go back to California when he was my number one rider back a couple of years ago in Chicago. And I told Jareth, I said, he moved his family out to Chicago. And I said, we're going to put you on the map, buddy. We're going to do it. I'm going to ride you on everything, and we're going to win a bunch of races in Chicago, and wherever we go, you're my guy. So unless he's got other obligations, at racetracks like right now, I'm kind of at a couple places, and he decided to go to the fairgrounds full time, which I don't go to. So, he's doing his thing there, but he's going to be my guy. So we stick with our people. That's the way we do it. I don't think there's much of a difference, if there's any difference at all, between him and some other rider at the fairgrounds right now.
Well,
you got a couple different guys that are, a little bit maybe in the elite category, but they're given, a lot more opportunities as well.
Yeah. Two Phils is going to break from.
You stack me up with, 12 Two Phils myself, as well. I'm sure that, I'm sure the chances of getting to one of these bigger races just going to make it, that much easier for myself as well. We've been fortunate to, get better horses as the years went on. And, people only remember you when you win. They don't remember who ran second for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember another quote that you and I talked about when you were on Trainer Talk back in 2017, and your good friend Wayne Catalano had said, when Larry Rivelli has a horse in a race, it's game on. So I don't know if all the other trainers and owners feel that way in the Lecomte today or not. I have no idea. But
hopefully we're going to make them recognize.
Yeah, hopefully when they know your name after the race, right?
Exactly.
Remember my name. We'll see if they're saying it after the race, and saying the name Two Phils. By the way, where did that name come from? Two Phils. Any idea?
The breeder, his son and his dad and him that's their name. So they're both Phil.
Makes
they're
sense.
Phil, so. Yeah, and they stayed in for a piece of the horse too. So.
Perfect.
Yep.
Size up the competition for me today, Larry. I mentioned the other trainers, the other owners. What? Obviously, you got to worry about all 7 rivals that you're facing, but size up the competition for me.
Yeah, I'm pretty much just the instant coffee horse that you were talking about. I said I'm worried about them all, but if that was one I had to pinpoint on, that would be the horse. I think he's got that's obviously beat us in the what was it, the juvenile? Yeah, or the Jockey Club.
Yeah.
He's the horse that beat us in the Jockey Club, and that's the one that I think we got to beat again.
Yeah,
he had a rough trip as well that day, but not as bad as ours. If you go back and watch the race, ours was horrendous.
Yeah, and I mentioned 7 other rivals. I think it's going to be down to 6 because Itzos is scratching, going to go to the Leonidas Stakes at Turfway Park later tonight. So you don't have to worry about Itzos. So you have 6 other rivals to beat, and Instant Coffee certainly is a deserved favorite. But Two Phils.
I think Brad Cox is scratching. Did he cross Erin, I think?
He is.
Yeah, I think.
Yep. So maybe it'll be even fewer horses. What instructions do you give to Jareth before the race? What do you plan to say to him?
We're probably going to break. I just want him to get, obviously I'm not going to have to worry about him getting down too much now from the outside post. So if there's a couple scratches, I'll be fine. I just want to have him find a spot, probably covered up behind somebody, either second tier or first tier. Just sit behind somebody who's a front runner, and we'll probably map that out a little closer to the race. And just sit behind, let him come off the bit, if you can, instead of having him drag him around there and using energy in his workouts. When he drops the bit, if he gets a chance to relax on the backside where he's not pulling Jareth and he's just off the bit running on his own, he's going to win. That's how he is.
We'll see if all of that comes together for Larry Rivelli, Jareth Loveberry, and the entire team surrounding Two Phils later today. Larry, really appreciate the conversation here this morning. I know it's a busy morning, so I'll let you go. Good luck later today, and I hope you can be making another walk to the winner's circle.
You got it, bud. Thanks, bud.
Right.
Have a good one.
All right. Larry Rivelli. Two Phils. We'll see if Two Phils can find a way to take that next step, his first step along the road to the Kentucky Derby here in 2023. Coming up next after this edition of your Legends of the Turf, I welcome Kirsten Johnson from Kesmarc as this week's Unsung Hero. They do fantastic work and very deserving of that honor. We'll recognize them when we come back, right after your Legends of the Turf.
Pouring back the sands of time through the hourglass of racing history to a late November day in 1923 brings us to the story of a match race between 2 superb thoroughbreds who squared off in a rubber match, having defeated each other once already. It was at Churchill Downs, and an enormous crowd had assembled for what promised to be a dandy in no uncertain terms. The combatants, Harry F. Sinclair's Zev and Carl Weideman's In Memoriam. Zev had won the first confrontation between the two in that year's edition of the Kentucky Derby, and In Memoriam had turned the tables on his foe in the Latonia Championship Stakes barely 3 weeks before this particular match race. Each of the owners put up $10,000. The Kentucky Jockey Club did likewise. The winner was to take home $25,000, the loser $5,000. Earl Sandy was in the saddle on Zev. Mac Garner drew the assignment on In Memoriam. Zeb was a big brown horse wearing blinkers for this match, and In Memoriam was a strapping bay with a deep chest and a long, free stride. When they lined up at the barrier, every eye was glued to the two stalwarts, and the excitement and anticipation of the moment was indeed intense. Zev made a false start. Then starter William Hamilton let them go on their way to a race that to this very day underscored in the annals of sport as one of the all-time great ones. Zev broke out on top, but apparently under orders. Sandy wrapped up his mount a bit and let In Memoriam under Garner go on out to set the pace. Down the stretch, neath the hallowed TwinSpires and on into the turn, it was In Memoriam by a length. On around the clubhouse turn, they stayed the same way, and as they went down the backside, In Memoriam opened the lead up to a length and a half. At the half-mile pole, In Memoriam headed by 2, and Zeb's fans began to wonder if their favorite could catch his rival, who was running easily and being well-rated by Garner. At the 3-furlong marker, Sandy dropped his mount down and asked for a run, and a run he got. The white silks of the Rancocas stable, glistening in the fall sunlight, began to cut down the margin, and by the time they hit the top of the stretch, they were racing as a team, a ton of horseflesh pounding powerfully to the wire. This, my friends, was a horse race by any measure or means. In Memoriam on the rail, Zev matching marvelous strides just to the outside of him. As they thundered down the straight, Zev drew away to an open length lead, and then a length and a half, but with a furlong to run. It was, for practical purposes, all over. It appeared In Memoriam was a beaten horse. But wait just 1 minute. Garner began pumping, whipping, and driving furiously, and with enormous courage, In Memoriam came on again, closing the gap with every long, smooth stride. Late on that bright, sunny autumn afternoon, with shadows creeping across the racing surface, these two titans of the turf, with their brilliant riders driving their mounts forward in synchronized motion, provided the vast throng with the most magnificent spectacle of sport. The crowd roar had been swelling to now reach a crescendo as the two locked together just noses apart, only jumps to the wire. The 40,000 on hand at Churchill that day breathlessly spent from what had been a spectacular race. As they hit the wire with In Memoriam on the rail, Zev on the outside, nothing to separate them. Zev roared some, In Memoriam roared others. It's a dead heat, yelled one spectator who nearly toppled from a perch on the grandstand roof from all the excitement. Jack Dempsey, a long-time well-noted turf observer, called it In Memoriam by a nose. In Memoriam, the wires flashed and the telephones called out. But wait just 1 minute. The call came out that Zev had been declared the winner. So close was the finish that will always be, to this very day, a matter of dispute amongst those who saw it as to which horse actually had won it. There were no photographically recorded finishes in those days, only 3 placing judges hovering above the track at the wire, who apparently saw Zev's brown nose at the wire, a bare fraction before In Memoriam's ruddy bay nostrils. Both riders, Sandy and Garner, had handled their mounts beautifully. Losing owner Carl Weideman said to winning owner Harry Sinclair, quote, "It was a race fit for kings between the 2 best horses ever to be found," unquote. It all happened November of 1923 at Churchill Downs, a great moment in thoroughbred racing.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up, and if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast, with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
New to Coolmore America for 2023 is Jack Christopher. A son of top sire Munnings and a 3-time Grade 1 winner, Jack Christopher was an 8 3/4 length winner on debut at Saratoga at 2 before winning the Grade 1 Champagne with a whopping 102 Beyer. His 3-year-old campaign included wins in the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile, the Grade 1 Woody Stevens by 10 lengths, and the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkins. Jack Christopher stands at an introductory fee of $45,000. Call the team at Ashford today to book your mare before he fills up.
Racing fans, Santa Anita's Classic Meet is underway, and there has never been a better time to experience world-class racing and much more at the Great Race Place. Come join us on Saturday for an outstanding 10-race card with special early first post time Saturday at 12 noon. Our main event is the $100,000 Astra Stakes for fillies and mares at the marathon distance of 1.5 miles on turf. First post time on Sunday is also at 12 noon, and fans, don't forget each Friday we offer free admission and parking, as well as $3 beers and $5 margaritas. And on each Saturday and Sunday, don't miss the first Coast to Coast Pick 5. It's a $1 minimum bet with a player-friendly 15% takeout covering 5 races from Santa Anita and Gulfstream Park. The first Coast to Coast Pick 5 will be offered each weekend throughout our Classic Meet. Located just east of Pasadena in Arcadia, Santa Anita, the Great Race Place.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Heroes in the world of sports are not uncommon, oftentimes thrusting themselves into the limelight through unimaginable feats.
back behind the ball. Woods puts it.
And in! He has done it! Tiger is back! Tiger is back on top! Tiger Woods, the 2019 Masters champion!
And breathtaking performances.
Here's how you count to 8. 3, 2, 1. And for the 8th time, college basketball's national championship trophy is coming home to Kentucky.
But behind every great hero, there are others. Individuals who play a crucial role in the achievements of those we read about in the headlines. The ultimate team players. Content to stand behind the curtain, embracing their place as a vital part of a sport's success. In horse racing, these are the unsung heroes.
Well, in thoroughbred racing, it takes a village if you're going to be successful. Nobody does it on their own, and that is certainly the case many, many times with our equine athletes. They suffer injuries, they have to go through rehab, and they have to work through different issues. Well, the folks at Kesmarc in Versailles have been doing things at a very high level, rehabbing our equine athletes for many, many years, and Kirsten Johnson is the owner of Kesmarc and a true unsung hero in our sport. You probably don't hear a lot about them, but that's because they work tirelessly behind the scenes to make our sport a success, and Kirsten and her team are as good as it gets, and she is with me now here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Kirsten, it has been way too long. Welcome to the show.
Oh, good morning. It certainly has. It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we had a listener who really enjoys this segment write into us and tell us about all of the different guests that we've had here, and she said, I really enjoy all of them, but I would love to hear from somebody at Kesmarc. I think that they deserve to be unsung heroes. And I said, that is a tremendous idea. I can think of nobody more deserving. So let's talk about the work that you do. Well, first of all, where did the idea of Kesmarc come from?
Well, I was in Pilot Point, Texas 23 years ago, and we had the opportunity to come here to Kentucky. We were already doing rehabilitation and sports medicine. We actually, pioneered that work, and the facility came before us, and I went, flew up here and looked at it. Had been to Lexington many times, never given moving up here much thought, but build it and they will come. And I looked at the facility, and we spent a great deal of time renovating it, and the rest is history. It's interesting, we brought hyperbarics to Kentucky and to the Lexington area, and there's more animal chambers here now than anywhere in the world for small and large animal. So
wow.
I just always thought that, these high-end equine athletes, these racehorses, when they have an injury, you don't even think if you're a human athlete. You go to rehab. And so this has become way more mainstream. It's actually a boarded specialty now in equine medicine, which I think is, fantastic. There's surgeons that are double boarded in surgery and equine sports medicine, and veterinarians out there doing, that specialize now in the work that, we started all those years ago. So that's a great thing.
When you have a horse come to the facility, is the goal to get them back to racing, or is it not necessarily racing? It could be something else too, but just to get them back to the level they were before. Is that always kind of the goal?
Well, with the diagnostics that the veterinarians have today, we can make a little better. We're not guessing quite as much. We can really make a better shot at getting these horses back. And it's our goal to get the horses back to the level they were at or better. And that's what we consistently do if we can, with the injuries that are presented to us. And we are Switzerland, so we work with all the veterinarians. We have nobody on staff. Every horse has a hospital or a veterinarian connected to them. They're sent many different ways. And I have horses shipped to me from all over the country and sometimes, from over the pond. So, yes. The way that medicine is practiced now, it's really amazing, the horses that come back. It's really, kudos to the veterinarians that get the job done.
Kirsten, do you have a favorite story you like to share with people when it comes to, talking about a horse that came to you and maybe was in need of a lot of rehab? I mean, maybe in a bad situation, and you and the team took that horse in, worked with that horse, and all of a sudden the horse turned out to go on and do great things, or whatever the case might be. Is there a story that's really captured your heart that you like to share with people when you talk about the equine athletes that have come through your facility?
I'm really respectful of not naming names.
Yeah.
I think the only people to me in this game, but of course I have a lot of great stories, the only people in this game, in my mind, that should talk about the horses that I've had are the owners, the trainers, or the veterinarians. So I'm pretty careful about that. But we had one horse walk through the door. He had both front legs bandaged from the bottom all the way up to the elbow. They took chips out of both knees, both ankles, and they split a tendon. And he was a gorgeous horse, and we rehabbed him and called the trainer, after the period of time, and this horse just came back. Everything was tight. He was amazing. And the surgeon, his thoughts were this horse would never return to graded stakes caliber racing, and he actually wrote it in the report. And, no disrespect at all, the trainer simply said, I'm going to give him a try. I'll see. I'll be the one. And this horse went on to win graded stake after graded stake after graded stake. That was, those kind of horses, the horse is such an anomaly when it comes to their heart, their grit, and people just, I think, really underestimate how much they love to run. They love to compete. They love being at the racetrack. I think that's one of the public's most misunderstood things is how much these horses really, really enjoy their jobs. And that one was just bound and determined to go back. He was not done. No matter what anybody said, he was going to beat the odds, and he did. We do a lot of respiratory work too. We and have had a lot of horses go back and do very, very well. So that's one story. I mean, I've been at this for 23 years here in Kentucky, but 15 years before that. So I have a lot of wonderful stories and just been so blessed to have had the opportunity to be entrusted with some great, great athletes.
People may not realize that horses, when they're rehabbing, will spend time in hyperbaric chambers. And you talked about the impact that has had when you introduced those in Kentucky, and now it's kind of a mainstream type of thing, if you will. We know about the benefits that human athletes receive when they're in a hyperbaric chamber and they're rehabbing. How about for horses? What does that do for them?
Well, we like to think about the chamber. There's several folds of things that the chamber is good for. But when it comes to the working athlete, I think what I am so encouraged to see is folks looking at the best recovery possible for these horses. Not just, not the competition, but after the competition, getting these horses back, the best they can be and giving that body. When a horse is under pressure in the chamber, it raises the oxygen level only while they're in the chamber. It goes right back down to normal. But the cascade of events that happens is really quite profound and quite healthy for the horse. More is not better, and we're really, really, careful to treat these horses exactly, the best way that we know how, and I think we have the best protocols in the business. But, from a standpoint of keeping an athlete healthy after competition, and if they have a little hiccup, that the chamber can play a crucial role. If they walk in and they're injured, they walk out, they're injured. So it doesn't mask anything. It doesn't hop them. It doesn't do anything in a negative way other than make them the healthiest they can be. And that's why human athletes and the elite human athletes use hyperbarics as well.
Talking with Kesmarc owner Kirsten Johnson here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. This edition of Unsung Heroes presented by Woodbine Entertainment. Kirsten and the team at Kesmarc are true unsung heroes. She's talking about the work they do rehabbing our equine athletes. Kirsten, it's not just you. There is a team in place that has been with you for a long time. You've had graduates go on and do great things. Tell me about the team at Kesmarc.
Well, I have folks that have been with me, from my secretary on for 20-plus years, and my general manager's been with me for Victor for longer than he and I even like to admit anymore. It is a team approach. It is not a corporate. It is a family farm. We are family. Everyone works as a team, and everyone has, real expertise at whatever it is that they do. And I am nothing without my employees. I mean, they inspire me. They love the horses. They just love these horses. And it's fun when we have horses that come back, when they come back for a freshen up, and they walk through the doors. They're always happy to be back. They're always kind of take a deep breath and they get some good sleep. And, it's just nice to have staff that I'd leave a baby with any of them. They're all just really great horsemen. They're super good horsemen. And they really respect the horses. All the horses are set up to just, be successful at the facility, relax at the facility, and, have a great stay while they're there for whatever reason they're there for.
We have about 2 minutes left, Kirsten, before I have to get to my next commercial break. But you have a quote on your profile on your website that says, "Taking care of horses is my life." And that sums up exactly what this segment, Unsung Heroes, is all about. It's about the people who take care of our horses behind the scenes and work with them, not in the headlines. And that's what you and the team at Kesmarc do. So in about 1.5 minutes, sum up how this love of horses began for you.
Well, like with most girls, I was raised in Southern California, and it happened for me when I was a child. And I was just blessed enough that I grew up and I found a way to make a living at it. Horses give us everything. They've given me everything, from the roof over my head to the food on the table. And I want to leave the world a better place for them. The direction that we're going in, we just always have to think, if you think of the horse first, then everything happens for the best. That's all you got to do. This is not a difficult, it's not difficult, and it's inspiring to have the new technologies come along, and there's data and science out there, and I just really feel strongly, to do what's best for the horse at every turn. That's my life, and that's what we continue to do at Kesmarc.
Yeah, it's inspiring to hear you talk about the work that you do, and I know it has certainly benefited so many horses, and it all starts with the horse for you and for the team. And Kirsten Johnson and the team at Kesmarc, true unsung heroes in our sport. Kirsten, I really appreciate the visit here this morning. All the best, and let's catch up again soon.
Oh, that's great, Mike. It's been an honor, and thank you guys so much for the work that you all do here, too. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Kirsten. Kirsten Johnson, this week's Unsung Hero presented by Woodbine Entertainment. I'll be back right after this word from Woodbine.
Attention horsemen, make plans now to race at Woodbine in 2023. The thoroughbred meet begins in April, and Woodbine will distribute more than $64 million in purses. Plus, you'll enjoy world-class racing and training facilities with top turf racing in North America over the prestigious E.P. Taylor Turf Course. Woodbine's convenient proximity to Kentucky and New York, along with a 9-month racing season, make it the perfect place to compete this year. Shipping incentives may be available, so don't delay. Contact Director of Racing Tim Lawson today and visit woodbine.com for more information.
If you know someone you feel deserves to be recognized as an unsung hero in our sport, simply email their story to me, and I will do my best to recognize them in the weeks ahead. That's Mike at horseracingradio.net. All right, when I come back, I'll get you ready for hour number 2. It is loaded with more great content. Stay with me. It is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Matthew.
There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at TonySteaksandSeafood.com.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolate candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Hi, this is jockey Brian Hernandez. For me, there's no bigger thrill than crossing the finish line in front, and nobody captures the excitement of our sport like Horse Racing Radio Network. Each week, HRRN brings you exclusive talk shows, podcasts, and in-depth conversations with the biggest names in racing, jockeys, trainers, owners, and more. Plus, HRRN is committed to helping disabled riders through their support of the PDJF. So climb aboard a winner today by visiting horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They're all in line. And they're off.
Spendthrift Farm presents Calling All 3-Year-Olds with Bobby Neuman.
Last weekend, there were no points qualifiers for the boys on the Kentucky Derby Trail, so the girls got the spotlight with the $100,000 Busanda Stakes at Aqueduct. 10 Kentucky Oaks points available to the winner, and the bettors thought the race boiled down to two fillies, a Colt and Affirmative Lady. Chad Brown's A Colt got a perfect trip stalking early leader Sweetest Princess, cranked up the pressure on the front runner on the far turn before eventually drawing away under Dylan Davis to win by daylight. Todd Pletcher's Gambling Girl rolled the rails all the way around the track to eventually finish second, well clear of the others. Final time for the 9 furlongs was 1:54.3. The boys are back at it today, though, as Fairgrounds host the Grade 3 $200,000 Lecomte Stakes at 1 1/16. Points values are doubled, as Richard Dawson used to say, and the winner of the race will earn 20 points toward Kentucky Derby status. The field of 8 is led by a couple of graded stakes winners. Instant Coffee, who has been away for over 2 months since capturing the Grade 2 Kentucky Jockey Club, and Two Phils, runaway winner of the Grade 3 Street Sense over a sloppy track at Churchill. But this race isn't just those two and everyone else. Echo again is trying to regain that monstrous form he showed in his maiden win. Bromley is an undefeated 2-for-2 sprinting, and horses like Dennington, Confidence Game, and Tappett's Conquest are all in good form and boast strong speed figures. It looks like a very evenly matched field. Next week, we'll preview the Grade 3 Southwest Stakes at Oaklawn. I'll be back with this week's top 5 list right after this word from Spendthrift.
Spendthrift Farm introduces new for 2023 Classic winner Mo Donegal. A leading 2-year-old of his class, Mo Donegal won the Grade 2 Remsen Stakes to close out his juvenile campaign before going on to win the Grade 2 Wood Memorial and Grade 1 Belmont Stakes as a 3-year-old, joining Nyquist as Classic winners by Uncle Mo.
And it will be Mo Donegal to win the Test of the Champion, the Belmont Stakes.
Mo Donegal became the first horse this century to capture New York's prestigious Remsen at 2 and Wood Memorial at 3. Mo Donegal, the newest Classic winner, standing at Spendthrift.
This week's top 5 list of Derby contenders looks like this. Number 5, Giant Mischief. Son of Into Mischief was way too far back early in the Springboard Mile, but still ran well, should improve as the distances increase. 4, Jace's Road looked great in the Gun Runner, could return in the Risen Star at Fairgrounds on February 18th. Number 3, Cave Rock looked nervous and uncomfortable prior to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and finished second when clearly not at his best. He's capable of better. Number 2, Forte, the Breeders' Cup champ, has been very professional and is getting a short rest. His next start likely will be the Fountain of Youth at Gulfstream on March 4th. And number 1, Arabian Night, the Baffert trainee, isn't eligible for Derby points yet, but his maiden win on the Breeders' Cup Saturday undercard was monstrous, and he's been working consistently since that win. That's your Calling All 3-Year-Old segment presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm.
105 days, 8 hours, 45 minutes, and 4 seconds away from the Run for the Roses, Saturday, May 6th at Churchill Downs. We'll know the answer to many of the questions and the points that Bobby brought up in that segment when we get to that point. The poll question today involves the main Kentucky Derby prep race on the docket, at least in terms of the points at the Fairgrounds. Who is your pick to win today's Lecomte at Fairgrounds? Gave you instant coffee, 2 fills, Tappett's Conquest, or other, and asked you to comment if you chose other. So far, it's not even close. And it's not instant coffee. It's not 2 fills. It's Tappett's Conquest, who is running away with this one. 54% of HRRN Nation saying it will be Tappett's Conquest standing in the winner's circle after the Lecomte Stakes. Skip chimes in and says, Echo again is his pick. He has the newest Mr. 2000, Tyler Gaffleone. Congrats to Tyler, by the way, for reaching that 2,000 win milestone, and he's backed by an amazing pedigree. We'll see if indeed Echo again is the winner. If you don't do social media, you can email your choice to me. That's what Joe has done. Joe sends to Mike at horseracingradio.net and says he'll take number 2, Dennington, in that race this afternoon. So, Joe, appreciate that. Keep those responses coming, and I will update them later in the program. Hour 2 kicks off next. It kicks off with jockey Keith Asmussen looking back on his special win last weekend at Oaklawn. Owner Jerry Bach will be with me at 9:20 to talk about his talented filly Chop Chop going in the Silverbulletday later this afternoon. And Kali Francois from Laurel will take a look at all of their big stakes races on the docket for this Saturday afternoon. I'm back with hour number 2 right after I pause 10 seconds for station identification and your Visit Barbados racing update. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
With 105 days remaining until the Run for the Roses, all eyes will be on the fairgrounds in New Orleans later today. Derby hopefuls begin their road to Louisville in the Grade 3 Lecomte Stakes, while the road to the Kentucky Oaks kicks off with the $150,000 Silver Bullet Day. Hall of Fame trainer Steve Asmussen goes in search of a 4th Lecomte win with the talented Echo again, but will likely have to deal with Grade 3 winner 2 fills from the barn of Larry Rivelli if he's going to get the top prize. 7 fillies will line up in the Silver Bullet Day, with the Brad Cox-trained Chop Chop expecting to attract plenty of attention from bettors. Louisiana-bred Nora G has won 2 of 3 starts to begin her career and carries the hopes of the home team. And that's your Visit Barbados Racing Update, brought to you by Barbados Tourism. Learn more at visitbarbados.org.
If you've been waiting to discover that sweet spot where peace of mind meets the time of your life, then it sounds like you've been waiting on Barbados. You've been waiting to experience a meal that makes you book a flight to have it again. You've been waiting for adventure in the sun, from the majesty of horse racing and polo to the thrill of surfing our playful waves. From the moment you set foot on the island, you'll realize Barbados is exactly what you've been waiting for. Visit jetblue.com/Barbados for special vacation packages.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, continuing on yet another busy morning here on the Equine Forum. Happy to have you back with me and looking forward to the second portion of the show. It includes jockey Keith Asmussen, who's going to join me momentarily, set to be joined by Jerry Bach of Selective LLC. He gets ready to watch his talented Chop Chop go to the post in the Silverbulletday later today. And then Kali Francois going to be with me from Laurel to walk through their 6 stakes races taking place this afternoon. Big day at Laurel. Kali will have an opinion on all of those for you. Hour number 3 kicks off with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Scott Shapiro will be here to give you 3 races to keep an eye on at 10 a.m. Eastern. Kurt Becker Stroll through racing history at 10:20. And at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin. Well, last weekend was a very special weekend for Jockey Keith Asmussen, the son of the sport's all-time leading trainer, Steve Asmussen. And it was special for a different reason than the last time he joined me on the program. He joined me in 2020 right after winning his first career race as a jockey, and he did that for his dad. This win last weekend at Oaklawn was not for his father, but it was a very special one, and it sounded just like this.
This away now at the top of the stretch. A neck in front of Rum and Tonic. Then to the outside and Papa Rocket. Then comes Touch Code at the rail, and it's Papa Rocket to take the lead. Papa Rocket, Touch Code is battling back from the inside. These two, Touch Code or Papa Rocket. Touch Code back in front by a head. Papa Rocket right back at him. These two to the wire. Papa Rocket. Papa Rocket beat Touch Code. Sissaway now was third, and Rum and Tonic finished fourth.
Dick Stauffer with the call. Papa Rocket winning the 3rd race last Saturday at Oaklawn under Keith Asmussen. It was a game win and a fantastic ride, and Keith is with me now here on HRN. Keith, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. As you're listening to that call, what was going through your mind?
Oh, my gosh. It's, a flood of emotions. I don't think it gets any more sentimental than that win to be able to do it for Lucas, who obviously has such a connection to my family. Just feelings of overwhelming pride in myself and in my family.
Yeah, it was really special. And the whole family story here, as you mentioned, is just incredible. Your grandfather rode for D. Wayne Lucas, as did your uncle Cash. So this goes back, more than 54 years, I guess, if you want to take it all the way back to your grandfather?
Correct. It's like a storybook. I had spent a weekend at the races with Lucas, just talking about riding and stuff, and he was telling me he's going to put me on a live one. And, to be able to knock it out the first start, it didn't really get any more perfect than that.
When he gave you a leg up before the race, did he tell you this was the live one?
Oh, exactly. And, before the race, you just playing it out where he'd like the horse to be. Oaklawn's a track where you kind of want to use horses' tactical speed and not, in the course of the race, I loved where I was. I liked how he was, closer than what he's usually used to. And, when he saw daylight, he took off, and it went perfect,
Yeah. Well, it did go perfectly. And then to be standing in the winner's circle with one of the sport's greatest trainers of all time, D. Wayne Lucas, a winner's circle that, not that winner's circle, but, just like your grandfather before, standing with D. Wayne Lucas, having your picture taken after the race. What was that like?
Yeah, it doesn't get more special. My grandfather is, jokingly of very few words, and, he had the world to say about that. Is obviously very special to him and I, in addition to the entire family.
Yeah, I read in the article that was written after the race that you were passing around a bunch of pictures of your grandfather when he rode and showing them to Wayne, and that had to be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, most definitely. It's like Columbus, which is, southwest of Houston, racetracks that don't even exist anymore. Quarter horse races is very sentimental.
Yeah. People think of jockeys, Keith, as being little people, and they are. They are not the tallest people in the world. You are. You're 5'10", so you're not the prototypical jockey. And Wayne said after the race that you displayed great horsemanship. He said that you got really low on the horse, and he walked through. He said, hey, it got really tight there for about the half-mile pole, and he said you could have panicked and come out of there, but you didn't. So take me through the trip. What was that like?
The feedback from Wayne, it doesn't really get any more invigorating than that. Obviously to hear praise from the coach, it's impossible not to feel really special about yourself. The course of the race, the horse was traveling, really smooth. I thought I had him right where I wanted to. It was in tight, but he was comfortable, and he's plenty of horse to put himself in position to go run on. If he'd been, any farther from it, I don't think he'd have caught that horse in the lead.
Did you notice things getting a little tight at the half-mile pole?
No, Papa Rocket's a pretty large horse, and I thought he was comfortable the whole way. It's not like I was necessarily on heels, but I was right where I would have liked to be.
What did Wayne say to you after the race?
He's kind of speechless. It was a lot of hugs and high fives, and that was awesome. And then just a step back. He's like, you did a really good job. I got one from on Sunday, so I'm hoping to use this momentum to breed more opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned your height, being 5'10". You're more of somebody that Wayne might have recruited as a point guard as opposed to a jockey, right?
Exactly. I'm glad it's a weight restriction, not a height restriction. I don't think I'd make the cut.
Yeah. How do you? Okay, you're 5'10". You're taller. How do you make sure that you're able to maintain the weight necessary to ride these horses? That can't be easy.
Yeah. As far as my diet goes, it's a lot of meticulous tracking, and I don't really deviate from what is my new normal.
What's the new normal?
Just pretty serious caloric restriction leading up to the races, and I believe I do it the healthy way, but it's still very challenging for someone of my stature.
Yeah, there's that story of the Hall of Famer Lafitte Pincay Jr. flying cross country, and he was so regimented in his eating and trying to make sure that he maintained his weight that he ordered peanuts and took out one peanut and ate like half of the peanut on his way. Right. Yeah, for D. Wayne Lukas. Right. Is it that strict for you?
No, I don't believe so. Just a lot of, nutrient dense foods. Eat like a rabbit, a ton of vegetables, a ton of eggs.
Cheeseburgers are not in the diet.
No, cheeseburgers don't make it.
That's a little disappointing, I have to tell you. I don't know what I'd do without a cheeseburger every once in a while. And unfortunately, far too often, actually, Keith. But that's why I'm not a jockey and you are. But I'm so happy for you in that big win. It's such a special moment. How did that compare? Because you and I did talk after your first career win back in 2020, and that came for your dad. And you were emotional when we talked about that. How did this compare to that moment?
Right. My first win on Ines Goulet at Lone Star is more like monkey off your back feeling. Is a massive feeling of relief. I don't think a win as top super stock winning the sales futurity for my grandfather. That was probably the most special to me, to be able to do it for my grandfather and my father, who have taught me everything I know. But this, without a doubt, ranks up there.
I asked
my
you
wins
what
are
Wayne.
few and far between. I don't want to knock them.
Yeah. I asked you what Wayne said to you after the race. How about your dad? What'd your dad say?
Oh, similar to Wayne. It's like immediately after is a lot of hugs and high fives and secret tears. But
yeah.
The following
So cool.
days, a lot of praise about the trip, how I handled myself and the horse.
Talking with Keith James Asmussen, who, of course, had that memorable win for D. Wayne Lukas last Saturday at Oaklawn Park. Looking back on that moment, when people look at your record, Keith, they're going to see, and you referenced this when you joined me a couple of years ago, that from 2020 to 2022, there's a bit of a gap in your riding career. What was going on in that time frame?
Right. At the end of the summer of 2020, I quit to return to school. I had 2 more years of my degree, and this past May, I graduated. I got a year previously, I got my bachelor's, and then this past year in May, I got my master's in professional accounting from the University of Texas.
Hey, congratulations on that. You told me at the end of that previous interview that really being a jockey was something you wanted to try, but you knew that you needed a fallback plan. Is this it?
Yeah. It's especially for someone of my stature, but universally, it's a very fleeting career that has no promises, and so it's definitely awesome to have options.
What's the plan going forward now?
I'd love to ride until it doesn't make sense anymore, and I truly love it. Don't tell anybody, but if they paid me in bottle caps, I'd still love to do it.
Well, I'm sure Wayne's going to tip you with more than just bottle caps, and you got to tell him he owes you a couple dinners now too.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a great story, Keith. And again, congratulations, and really appreciate you taking a few minutes to be with me here this morning and walk back through that. And all the best moving forward, and I'm sure Wayne will be giving you a leg up again before too long.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It was a
All
blast.
right. Yeah, Keith Asmussen here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. I think the whole storyline surrounding the family history there, I mean, think about it. Keith's grandfather riding for Lucas and being in the winner's circle with him nearly 54 years ago. His Uncle Cash riding for him. And then the fact that they're passing around pictures after the race and reminiscing. I mean, that's what it's all about. And for a guy like D. Wayne Lucas, who, you know, is always very cognizant of giving back to the sport and somebody who represents the game in the right way, this was a special moment for him. And at some point I'd like to ask Wayne what this meant to him. But yeah, it's a cool story all around, and congratulations to Keith and to the team and to everybody associated with Papa Rocket. All right, coming up next, I'm going to turn our attention back to the fairgrounds. Going to welcome in owner Jerry Bach, who is set to watch his talented 2-year-old filly Chop Chop go to the post in the Silverbulletday. People won't realize, and I mentioned this at the top of the show, Chop Chop was favored over Wonder Wheel, was actually the favorite over everybody in the Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies. Now, she didn't show up, and Wonder Wheel did. So Chop Chop has to prove that her Alcibiades effort was no fluke when she was beaten just a nose by Wonder Wheel. She has a lot to prove here today. And she has to prove that she can win on the dirt. Because keep in mind, Chop Chop is 2 for 4 lifetime. Those 2 wins both came on turf. And yeah, she was a nose behind presumptive champion Wonder Wheel. We'll find out on Thursday night, but I think everybody's expecting Wonder Wheel to be the champion 2-year-old filly. Chop Chop was a nose behind her, but she still hasn't won on the dirt. So I'm going to ask Jerry Bach about that. Does he believe that she can be a top dirt filly, or is there a chance we may see her revert back to the turf at some point, even before we get to the Kentucky Oaks? He has options. She's talented, that's for sure. We'll talk about it next. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Looking for some excitement going into the new year? Laurel Park has plenty of live horse racing events to spice things up this January. The much-anticipated winter meet kicks off January 1st. Plus, we've got special MLK holiday racing on Monday, January 16th, and the Winter Carnival Stakes on Saturday, January 21st. Winter may be cold, but the racing at Laurel Park is hot. Learn more about upcoming January events by visiting laurelpark.com.
Racing fans, Santa Anita's Classic Meet is underway, and there has never been a better time to experience world-class racing and much more at the Great Race Place. Come join us on Saturday for an outstanding 10-race card with special early first post time Saturday at 12 noon. Our main event is the $100,000 Astra Stakes for fillies and mares at the marathon distance of 1.5 miles on turf. First post time on Sunday is also at 12 noon, and fans, don't forget each Friday we offer free admission and parking, as well as $3 beers and $5 margaritas. And on each Saturday and Sunday, don't miss the first Coast to Coast Pick 5. It's a $1 minimum bet with a player-friendly 15% takeout covering 5 races from Santa Anita and Gulfstream Park. The first Coast to Coast Pick 5 will be offered each weekend throughout our Classic Meet. Located just east of Pasadena in Arcadia, Santa Anita, the Great Race Place.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, Presented by TwinSpires.
Knock Your Socks Off has made a wide rally on the far outside, coming into contention along with Chop Chop, and they're into the stretch. Still a quarter of a mile to run here. And on the outside, it's Chop Chop toward the inside, Towhead. These two matching strides now. They've opened up from their competition. It is Chop Chop and Towhead. Chop Chop on the outside. Towhead the rail, the final 16th. Towhead and Chop Chop still going at it. They'll go at it all the way down to the wire. Towhead, Chop Chop. Who's it going to be? Here's the wire. Heads were up and down. Too close to call. Towhead or Chop Chop. And then it was CC Cruise Control and Knock Your Socks Off.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron in the backstretch, continuing on a very busy morning here on the show. And that was Larry Colmus with the call of the juvenile fillies at Kentucky Downs back on September 3rd. Noses up and down. It was Chop Chop's nose who got to the wire first that day. Came up a nose short in the Grade 1 Alcibiades behind presumptive 2-year-old filly champion Wonder Wheel in her next start, and then didn't show up the way they would have hoped in the Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies. But Chop Chop is the 8-5 morning line favorite in today's Silver Bullet Day at the fairgrounds, and I know that has to be good news to Chop Chop's owner, Jerry Bach, who is with me now in this next segment. Jerry, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear the story of Chop Chop, but I want to start with that huge effort in the Alcibiades and then, the disappointing effort in the Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies. Which is the real Chop Chop?
Well, I think with the Breeders' Cup, she washed out in the paddock. This excitement got to her. I think that's what Brad Cox told me. And then she got outside ride all the way around, and she didn't break that well, so this didn't set up for her.
Yeah, and horses aren't machines either, right? Sometimes things just don't go their way. They have an off day, and like you said, maybe she got a little worked up with the crowd, whatever it might be. Tell me about the Alcibiades. That effort was huge.
Yeah, we were really excited about it. I live pretty close. I live in Cincinnati, only 2-hour drive to Lexington, so we really enjoy going down there. And she broke okay that race. Got behind a few horses, and then she just down the stretch gave it all she had, but there's a little bit too much ground to make up on that short mile on the 16th turn in the corner for home.
Yeah, you're right. That is a shorter finish line there. Fairgrounds, you don't have to worry about that later today. She'll have plenty of room to set up that late run, won't she?
Exactly. That's what I was thinking about when Brad told me he got her in a race down here.
Yeah. She is a filly that you purchased at the Fasig-Tipton Kentucky July sale. What was it that first attracted you and the team to Chop Chop?
Well, Andrew Carey, who Brad set me up with, selected her for me, and we both liked the fact that she was a long horse and a really long horse front to back for all her extremities, and just had it all together and just enough breeding where we thought we'd take a chance.
Well, and it's worked out just fine for you. It's a chance that has paid off so far. I mentioned 8-5 on the morning line. Being the favorite in a stakes race, in any race, is always a good thing. I've had trainers tell me they'd rather come into a race with the favorite than the longest shot in the race. How about for an owner? Is it the same for you?
Yeah, a little pressure because you're expected to win, but the horse doesn't know the odds, so you just kind of – each horse has its own particularities, and with Chop Chop, we just wanted her to break well. If she breaks well, she'll be in the game.
What's been your favorite Chop Chop moment in her brief career so far?
Down at Kentucky Downs, I was down there with my daughter and my son, and it was just pouring down rain, and we thought she was in maybe like the 7th race, and we thought they were going to call, or maybe the 5th race. We thought they were going to call it in the 4th. It was horrendous storms. And then they loaded them in, or tried to load them in for her race, the next race, and they shoved them in 4 minutes early to whoever puts the horses in the gate out there said, just get in now. And it was just storming down there like unbelievable lightning, and I'm surprised they ran. But she crossed the finish line, and we were right there, and we didn't know if she won or not. Usually you got a good feeling, but it was completely up in the air. And finally when they put the photo finish up, we all went crazy, and it was a great moment for my family to be there.
Well, I'm glad I chose Larry Colmus's call of that race to welcome you to the program here today, knowing that was such a special moment. Yeah. What was going through your mind when you were listening to the call?
Just bringing back memories. There was this little building down there right next to where the jockeys come out, and it was just pouring down rain, and we were in this building it's got a nice-sized TV in there. And just the memory of being in that TV room with my two kids. It's open in the front, so the minute they called it, we went sprinting out to the winner's circle, and the jockey came in with a big smile on his face, and it was a great moment. We didn't care how wet we got.
How old are the kids?
Derek here is 34, and my daughter's 29, Julie.
Okay.
And that's a little bit of a drive from Cincinnati, about 4 hours, but we went down there the year before. Brad had us in a race with a horse called Yin Yang. Same race. She came in second, so we thought, well, we'll try to improve a little bit this year. We went down there with Chop Chop, and she won by a short nose. So we've had two nice trips down there.
Jerry, this has been quite a ride for you in the thoroughbred business. Take me back to the beginning. Tell me your story. Tell me about how you got involved and then what this ride's been like all the way through.
From getting into horses?
Yeah.
Oh, we grew up in Cincinnati. We went to River Downs a lot. Snuck in underage, of course. And then I got into horses, bought a few, and got lucky with a horse called Take Charge Lady, a horse called Repent. They were both from Fazig.
Yep.
And had a good time, made a little money. And I was still in business, and just after 10 years, I was up, and, just don't want to be here forever. Then I got out of it for 10 years, and then I got the itch again about 3 years ago, jumped on with Brad, and he's very professional. Like I said, Andrew's unbelievable guy. He knows everything about the sales, and sends him down to a guy named Carl Lucan in Ocala. He breaks him in. He broke in Chop Chop. And then Brad takes it from there. So he's just got a real professional team, and I'm happy I got back into racing with Brad.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned names like Repent and Take Charge Lady, because I can't gloss over those two. I'm not going to let you get away with just mentioning their names, because they were very special horses, and they were very special to you. So take me back through those moments, and what do you remember about those rides that those horses took you on? Some of your top memories.
Well, mainly just going down to Lexington, where she won, I think, 3 Grade 1s in Keeneland, because it's, like I said, it's a little under 2 hours from my home. And I could take my mom and my wife's mom down there. And it was just always like a family event. And then I just like about 3 or 4 days ago, I was walking through my house and I saw a picture. I said, oh, my God, that's a Silverbulletday. Somebody sent me a picture of her at the finish line in the Silverbulletday, and it was 2002.
Yes.
So I said, my God, I'm going back down there this week. And I remember that all of a sudden the picture meant a lot to me again.
Yeah, Take Charge Lady winning the Silverbulletday in 2002. She went on to win so many. Obviously, so many great stakes races, graded stakes races, multiple grade 1s. She was very, very special, as was Repent and the ride that Repent took you on, too. Tell me a little bit about Repent.
He broke his maiden, I forget where. Then we put him in real quick in a stake race at Turfway, like a $100,000 stake race, and he won that. And right then, he just blew these horses away after breaking his maiden. And the only thing about Repent was he was a real deep closer, and that probably hurt him some. But we took him up to Belmont for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and he came in second, just flying at the end. But he came up a little short. He was a really good horse. He never knocked down a grade 1, but he won, I believe, like $1 million. And he was a big attitude with him. I remember you didn't want to get too close to him. But he was a decent horse. A very good horse.
You break into the game with horses like Take Charge Lady and Repent. What's that do for an owner? Does that make you say, hey, it's an easy game, that anybody can do this? Or does it make you appreciate the times when things aren't going that well?
It makes you appreciate things when they're not going well, because I knew they were both, especially Take Charge Lady, was a gift, because I would go walking around the backside and people would walk up to me and tell me how lucky I was. And I realized, you can work your whole life. You get some decent horses, but to get one like her that won what she did and sold like she did, I knew she was something special. It probably never happen again.
talking with owner Jerry Bach here on the Horse Racing Radio Network, getting ready to send out his talented 3-year-old filly, Chop Chop, the 8-5 morning line favorite in this afternoon's Silver Bullet Day at the fairgrounds. He's there with his family, so he gets to celebrate these moments alongside his children. It sounds to me, Jerry, you mentioned family several times throughout the conversation, that this was a big part for you in terms of getting into the business and going to the races. You always wanted to do this with your family. Am I right?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It gave us something to look forward to, especially, even if you didn't have a favorite in a race, just to go down to Keeneland or to Churchill. And went to Churchill with a couple of my kids last year. And I guess it was last year. Here we are in January. And it's always special when you go down there with some of them.
You mentioned being out of the game for several years and then getting back involved with Brad, and that's been a wonderful decision for you. Things are certainly going in the right direction there. You said you got the itch again. What was it that pulled you back in?
Watching it on TV, watching the Breeders' Cup, watching some races at Keeneland on television, and then thinking, you know what, you only live once. And it was a very exciting time in my life. I know I was fortunate with the horses I had. So I thought, well, you only go through once, so why not get there and try it again? Because it was a big adrenaline rush when you're in the game. You know you're not going to win all the time, but just when you're at the top of the stretch and you know you got a chance, nothing beats it.
Why Brad Cox?
That's a good question. When I decided to get back in it, I did some work, and I got online, and I just wanted to look. Because I go to Keeneland and Churchill the most, I wanted to see who the leading trainer was down there. And Brad Cox kept popping up, and I was paying a little attention, and he had this horse called Monomoy Girl. And then he got bigger and bigger, and more horses were coming to him. They kept doing a good job. But mainly, I figured this guy's got into what he's doing, being a leading trainer of some difficult, very competitive tracks. So I gave him a call, and we got together, and he turned me on to the people I mentioned, and everything's going just fine.
Yeah, I would say so. So many times I will ask a trainer, tell me what it's like training for this prominent owner or this particular person, whoever it might be. So I'll ask you, what's it like being an owner, having horses with a guy like Brad Cox?
Nothing's going to slip through. Brad will absolutely put the horse's best foot forward. He'll give it the best opportunity. He's got a great eye. He picked a great spot for her today. I was thinking it was a little soon, but he said, Jerry, she's training just great because we gave her a couple months off after the Breeders' Cup just to, let her relax. And he's really good at putting his horses in the right spot.
Yeah, he's brilliant with that, and I think that's part of the reason for his success. And, I mean, other than the fact that the guy can really train a horse, but certainly knowing where to put them is a big part of his success. You talked about partnering with Andrew Carey and purchasing Chop Chop at the Fasig-Tipton sale, and now we're talking about partnering with a guy like Brad Cox. Looking down the road, is this a pattern you see continuing going forward?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be at Fasig with Andrew in July. 6 months from now, we'll be together. Actually, he's coming down here today, the fairgrounds, so we'll be talking horses over lunch.
Yeah. How many horses do you have now, Jerry?
Only a few. I had a couple. I had to retire, had injuries, but right now I only have 3 horses, but that'll change at Fasig.
It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? I mean, it's infectious, especially when you have success the way you're having it. It almost becomes almost a little bit of an addiction, doesn't it?
It does, and I'm back in it, and I'm kind of glad. Nothing beats it, when you've got a horse that's going to go off. It doesn't have to be the favorite, but, one of the top 3 favorites, 8-5, 2-1, or even 3-1, because you should be in the game coming down the stretch. You can't expect to win them all, but it's fun to at least hit the board.
How involved do you get in the decision-making process, whether it be picking out races or going to the sale and selecting horses? Are you an integral part of that, or do you just kind of step back and rely on the experts that you're working with?
It's mainly the experts, but like when I go down to the sale with Andrew, he picks the horses out. He gets a short list, and then he goes over the short list with me, and we make a decision together on a short list, because when you go from hundreds of horses to a short list of maybe under 10, you're really starting to split hairs. Those few might look the same of what's important to you, whether it's the walk, the physique, and Andrew lets me be part of it, and I really trust him, because on our short list last year, we might have vetted out 7 or 8 horses, and I think 3 or 4 of them have won a stakes. So it's just a matter of picking the right ones at the end.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you that question next. How many times have you looked at that short list, made your decisions, and then some of the other horses you passed on for whatever reason went on to be big horses and greatest stakes winners or whatever the case might be, and how frustrating is that?
I don't want to talk about it. Andrew keeps track on everything, and when he sends me a text, remember hip number 27 we took a pass on? Look what she did at Santa Anita yesterday, but it's a friendly conversation always with him.
Those are the text messages he doesn't need to be sending you.
He lets me know he's on the ball. It's just up to me to get a few more. That's why I said at Fazig I might get a few more this year.
Yeah, part of that too is letting you know, hey, we were on the right horses. We had our system works, our philosophy works. We just didn't pull the trigger on the right horse that day.
You hit the nail on the head.
So you mentioned the physique and the walk and the types of things you look for. What are some of the boxes that a horse, let's say Chop Chop, for instance, some of the boxes that a horse has to check before you say, I'm going to write the check?
Well, a little bit breeding, but I'm not too big in that, more on the physical. I mean, she, like I said, long extremities, a long walk, and a big shoulder that slopes back. I think the shoulder's important. I know the rear end is, but I'm not Andrew takes care of most of the things. And sometimes it's not science. Sometimes a horse just gives you certain vibes when you see it. And when you pull it out a second or third time at the sales, you just try to get the feeling of this one seems sharp, And they start looking the same when you get it down to under 10.
Post time for that Silver Bullet Day this afternoon. Race 12 at the fairgrounds is 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 locally in New Orleans, and that's where Jerry Bach and his family will be. There's no doubt about it, and they're hoping to be standing in the winner's circle shortly after that time. And, Jerry, I hope you get the chance to do that, my friend.
Thanks for your help. Your call is very nice, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation here, and all the best this afternoon, and hopefully we'll be talking again when you get to Louisville.
That'll sound good.
All right. Thanks, Jerry. Jerry Bach, Chop Chop. She looks like look, I said she's the deserved favorite in that race, and she is. On paper, she has accomplished more than any other horse in the Silver Bullet Day today. But, again, which Chop Chop shows up? Which one is the real Chop Chop? Is it the Chop Chop that ran her eyeballs out and nearly beat Wonder Wheel in the Alcibiades? Or is it the one, as Jerry pointed out, that washed out in the paddock before the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and just didn't show up and run a race? Horses are not machines. And she's in the right hands with Brad Cox. They've had a lot of success in the game, Jerry Bach and his team, and now they're hoping that Chop Chop can deliver another victory in that Silver Bullet Day later this afternoon. When we come back, I'm going to welcome in Kali Francois. She's the analyst at Laurel. A huge day at Laurel today. I believe it's 6 stakes races on the docket. We're going to talk about all of them coming up next. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Sam Houston's live thoroughbred meet runs through April 8th and features a new afternoon racing schedule for 2023 with racing Friday through Sunday and a first post time at 1 p.m. Central. The meet is highlighted by the Houston Racing Festival returning Saturday, January 28th, Texas Preview Day on February 18th, and Texas Champions Day on March 25th. Canadian racing fans are invited to play Sam Houston at simulcast outlets throughout Canada and on HPI Bet. For more information, visit shrp.com.
There's plenty to bet on at Gulfstream Park this January with the return of the championship meet, featuring live thoroughbred racing Wednesday through Sunday and the $3 million Pegasus World Cup on Saturday, January 28th. Enjoy the races outdoors from the Carousel Club or cool off in a private suite or a restaurant 10 Palms. For stake schedules, reservations, and tickets, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
I'm here with Joe Brown Nicholson of Nicholson Insurance Agency. Joe, how do you value a horse for insurance?
Well, Mike, it's easy to value a horse when purchased out of a public auction. The insured value would simply be the auction price. But insuring homebreds can be a little more involved.
How so?
Well, factors such as a stud fee, conformation, pedigree, sales and race records of siblings, even popularity of the stallion all come into play.
How closely do you work with owners in determining a horse's value?
Well, the owner has a pretty good idea of the horse's value, so generally it's just a matter of agreeing to the request and having the policy issued.
For all your equine and general insurance needs, including farm owners, liability, homeowners, auto, and more, contact Joe Brown Nicholson at nicholsoninsurance.com or call 859-224-7080. That's 859-224-7080. Nicholson Insurance Agency.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Coming on, but there's a 16th of a mile to go, and Spectacular Bid is going to win the 105th running of the Kentucky Derby. Spectacular Bid doesn't run Franklin aboard. General Assembly second under the wire. After that, it was Golden Axe and King Celebrity. So about 7th around the clubhouse turn, Ronnie Franklin made a big move with the bid on the far turn and on to victory. Time on the board, 2 minutes, 2 2/5 seconds.
Dave Johnson with that tremendous call of the 1979 Run for the Roses. Spectacular Bid. Just so brilliant that day, as he was in so many of his starts throughout his career. And today, Laurel remembers the bid with a stakes race named in his honor. Also a stakes race named in honor of Hall of Famer Extra Heat. It's a great day in Laurel, Maryland. And joining me now is Laurel analyst Kali Francois, longtime jockey, and now she is here with me on the Horse Racing Radio Network as an analyst. I love it. Kali, good morning.
Mike, how you doing? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. I say longtime jockey. It wasn't the longest career of any jockey in the history of the sport, but you did ride. You joined me on the show when you were riding races several years back, and now we get to talk as you're a big TV star now.
It's not completely off the shelf, Mike. It's not completely off the shelf, so don't count me out just yet. But yes, we have a fantastic day of racing here going on, starting in the extra heat in the third race. So post time is 1:22 for that. And this race starts, it's a tight field, small, but it packs a punch, Mike, in this extra heat for the 3-year-old fillies. You've got Chickiness getting the blinkers on with a win last time out to kind of keep her engaged. There's a lot of speed in this race, a ton of fillies that just have been winning going to the lead. Now, to me, how do you separate this field? What you do is you separate who can overcome any kind of pressure or adversity, and I end up landing on L Street Lady, actually, for Brittany Russell, gets Jaden Toledo today. But I'm not looking just at that last win. She won by 7.5 in a maiden special weight, going 5.5, sure. But that first-time effort back on the turf in October, she was coming from off the pace. Now, she was on an outside post, but that was a pretty decent-sized field. And the dynamic of a turf race, sprinting on a turf race, is a bit different than the dynamic of dirt because normally you have so many more horses in the field, and you have a lot of pressure to contend with. And she was kind of right in the middle of the pack, so she got great experience her first time out, and then she got back on the dirt and she carried on with it.
All right, so L Street Lady, 9-5 on the morning line, will be your top pick in the extra heat?
Yes.
Okay. Wait, we're going to get to the other stakes races here in a minute, Kali, but I'm not going to let you get away with what you started with here. You threw it out there, and then you jumped right into the analysis of the extra heat. Is there a chance we might see Kali Francois back in the saddle?
I mean, not officially, but the desire is absolutely still there, Mike. I mean, I didn't end on my own accord, so no, it's not. I'm nowhere near. Have no desire to be retired or talk about this career that I had. It's still an option.
Yeah, well, it would be great to see, and obviously your health and all of that comes first, but it would certainly be wonderful to see. And now you're doing the analyst work for Laurel and doing a fantastic job, and we're walking through the 6 stakes races here today. We just talked about the extra heat. Let's jump into the next one, which is the $75,000 Jennings Stakes. It's race number 4. By the way, all 6 stakes run in succession at Laurel today. This one 1 mile on the main track. Who wins the Jennings?
I mean, it's easy to go. It's an easy grab for Our Nation on Parade, but Ain't a Beer Cold for Kenny Cox last time out was a really nicely hot contestant, game second next to Our Nation on Parade, or beating Our Nation on Parade in the Robert T. Manfuso. We cut back to this 1-turn mile distance, Mike, but that's where I do think Our Nation on Parade is going to excel, because I do believe you go back to the 1 1/8 win in the Maryland Million Classic, sure, and the Richard Small Stakes, that was a nice game run as well. I think the 1 1/8 transfers very, very well to the 1-turn mile that we have here at Laurel Park, because it's all about that extension to the second wire, and that kind of plays into play at the beginning of the race, going 9 furlongs in the last couple of starts, but then you kind of track it down to the end of that race. To me, from what I've noticed, from what I've ridden, it does transfer really well. Now, saying that, I really love – I go for the easy grab of Our Nation on Parade, but Ain't a Beer Cold is one to really, I think, watch out for in this race, especially getting that nice, perfect for him inside post.
Kelly, do you think that having ridden races there at Laurel gives you a bit of an advantage when you're handicapping, because you know the intricacies and what horses tend to run well at what distances?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you can use that to your advantage, right?
Oh, my gosh, yes, absolutely, definitely. So in an example like this, Our Nation on Parade is the easy grab, just because of who he is, but I see Ain't a Beer Cold, and I just see these 2 turns and these wonderful accelerations at 2 turns, and not a bad effort going 9 furlongs either. If you go back to June 12th of this year, that wasn't a bad effort either, but Ain't a Beer Cold is really going to have to turn things up a notch, and I really, like I said, the 1-turn mile to the 1 1/8 transfers really, really well here at Laurel Park.
How much time did you spend handicapping a race before you would ride it?
Oh, it was insane. I remember, in a memory, I remember this is a discussion for a different time, but yes, I delved heavily into it, and I remember showing notes after the race until Lacey got out one day, and she's like, you're insane. But yes, because as a rider, you have to, you're going ultimately, especially now when I go back out there, it's going to, all of this handicapping knowledge is just going to be sitting there in the back of my mind, and then I can just let the instincts take over. But when I first started riding, you have to handicap properly, and you have to have plan A, B, C, D. There's 26 letters in the alphabet, Mike. You've got to have. There's always going to be a backup plan because racing, as you know, does not normally go the way it is planned out.
Yeah, you hope you don't have to go further than Plan D, right?
No, ultimately not. But you know what? Sometimes Plan D does work out for you. So really, whatever gets you across the wire first, that's really all that matters. So I don't care if it's Plan J. There we go.
Talking with Laurel analyst Kali Francois here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. 6 stakes races on tap later today. Let's move on to the third. That is the Geisha Stakes, 1 mile on the main track. It's race 5. How'd you see that one, Kelly?
I mean, it's hard to go against Malibu Beauty with such a strong effort last time out, and especially due also the fact we've got Gary Capuano is great at 2 things: second time starting and also second after the lap. And lately he's 6 for 22, 27%. And that leading up into the carousel, he worked this filly very, very in a particular fashion that really got a good bottom on this filly and really tightened the notches on her, so to say. And he backs that up with a nice 5 furlong work a bullet furlong work out of his, handful sizing. He goes 103 that day, but it seems to work out for him. And then it's hard to go, he scratched Intrepid Dream, but Intrepid Dream is going to be sitting right behind him. One that is interesting is the number 3 Award Wanted for Jerry Robb. Angel Cruz gets the call on this one. Now, Award Wanted, I remember when this horse was a 2-year-old, and this horse is gigantic. So for him, I was shocked that he won last time out going 5.5. This horse, on a physical standpoint, is made to go this type of distance. So I have him in his third, but if you want to take a shot at a little bit of a price at 6-1, I would suggest Award Wanted.
All right, that's the Geisha, the 6th race. The 4th of the 6 races is 6 stakes races is the Fire Plug, $100,000 purse, 4-year-olds and up, and they'll sprint 6.5 furlongs on the main track. Who wins it?
My hometown. I'm going with the hometown favorite. Factor it in. That was this horse. Ever since coming back in the Shaolin, he had a little bit of a break. He had a little bit of a splint issue. Owner Michael Sheffield was telling me after the win in the Shaolin. Then he goes up and performs very, very well up in New York in grade 3s. He comes back and just makes a monster of himself in that Dave's Friends on Maryland standards. But not only was it an impressive enough number, but I think the horse is going in such the right direction. And the barn itself, Carlos Mencia, is really heated up as a trainer. In this meet alone, he's 10 for 2, but he's in the winner's circle, but he is 5 for 2 in the money as well, which gives you a bit of an indication off of a short sampling of how the barn is going in that direction. Who else do I have underneath? So that's my top horse. Of course, you have to include Baron, Butch Reed's horse. You can't count that horse out. He had Paco Lopez on him last time out. We've got Frankie Pennington back on him who understands this horse. But it's going to be a tight fit. It's going to be an extremely wonderful finish between those two. I also include Always in a Hurry for Phil Capuano as well. And just taking a look, I include Pirate Rick as well. Why not? Norman Cash, you never know what's going to come with Norman Cash. William Humphrey, though, when he rides particularly well for Norman Cash, and he has ridden Pirate Rick before, so that helps. And then a wild card, 12-1, Al Loves Josie, another Jerry Robb runner.
All right, maybe horses to put underneath, factor it in, the top pick from Kali in the 6th race. Race 7, the What a Summer Stakes, another $100,000 stake, 6 furlongs on the main. How'd you see that one?
So I do go with Fee Desprez, despite the fact that Swaying To and Fro is a filly that is continuously on the upswing. But horses are just like people. Sometimes they just don't have their days, and the last performance out of Fee Desprez was also a little bit of a pattern. She'll go on the streak, and then she'll just throw in a clunker, but then she'll be right back in the game. If you take an example from the Alma North to her win at Colonial, although she had a pretty legitimate excuse at Laurel in the Alma North, her head hit the gate right before the gates opened, so she did suffer a bit of a concussion from that. Turned back around, brought it all back. So usually she does have a legitimate excuse, but I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, babe, that was a bad day last time out. I am going to go with Fee Desprez with, of course, Swaying To and Fro underneath.
All right, 5-2 on the morning line for Filet Desprez number 6 in that one. And the final race is the race honoring the great spectacular bid, 7 furlongs on the main track, $100,000 at stake, and this one is for the 3-year-old boys. Probably don't get a Kentucky Derby horse out of here, but you never know. How'd you see the spectacular bid?
Well, it's funny that you say Kentucky Derby and spectacular bid because we're talking about the number 2 Prince of Jericho, who is a stablemate, of course, to Post Time, which is the really big horse that everybody is excited about, that Brittany Russell horse. But Prince of Jericho got a bit of not quite blundery trip, but you have to watch that replay a little bit to kind of really pick hairs. I'm going to go ahead and give him the benefit of the doubt. He's first time on Lasix as well. So, of course, Brittany Russell, 32% in that, no surprise. So I do go with Prince of Jericho and then Coffee with Chris underneath. Heldish for Mike Maker. It's going to be interesting what we see, but ultimately I do think this is a horse that is a bit of a need the lead type. He is just a bit one-paced. So I still stick with Prince of Jericho. It's tough because I was talking about this with card on a whole with Keith Fusel, where this card could either be a bit chalky today, or we could have some really wonderful performances and some prices come out of nowhere. And in the spectacular bid, where I fall upon with my bit of a price play underneath, I'm going to play a price play underneath just to be safe, is the number 5 B West. Also a Jerry Robb runner. I seem to have these Jerry Robb prices underneath today. I'm just realizing this, but this horse got the attention of everybody in his second time start with Hugh McMahon when he stretched out a little bit for the first time. Next time out effort was his maiden breaking score, where Michael Trombetta claimed him, and then Jerry Robb snapped him right up for 62.5. So this is a horse that everybody has had their eye on ever since his second start with Hugh McMahon.
All right, 10-1 on the morning line for B West would be a big price underneath the top pick, Prince of Jericho, in the spectacular bid. Race 8, post time, 3:51 Eastern. Kali, appreciate the visit here this morning. Thank you for taking time to walk through those races, and folks can catch you on the TV over at Laurel Park and on the simulcast feeds. Really appreciate it. It was great to catch up.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike, and everybody, good luck out there today.
Yeah, good luck at the races. Kali Francois here on HRRN. And we'll see. I mean, not likely that we see a Derby horse come out of the spectacular bid. You wouldn't expect that would be the case, but we'll see how these horses progress and move on. And who knows, maybe one jumps up and gets on the Derby trail at least after that 8th race later today. When I come back, I will update you on today's poll question. I'll get you set for hour number 3, and I'll give you some historical dates in racing history. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
The National HBPA's annual conference is fast approaching, March 6th through the 10th at the Hotel Monteleone in New Orleans' historic French Quarter. Don't miss your chance to attend informative panels hosted by industry experts and a keynote address from Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry. The conference kicks off with a reception on Monday, March 6th, and offers 3 days of panel discussions, presentations, and meetings, along with Jeff Landry's keynote speech on Tuesday, March 7th. Attendees will also enjoy an outing at the fairgrounds for racing on Thursday, March 9th. For more information and registration, visit nationalhbpa.com/convention.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
My battle buddies and I attended the NHL Stadium Series at Yankee Stadium. We had never been there before, and 2 of us had never seen a hockey game. Man, we had the time of our lives. It was great therapy. Vet Tix, we can't thank you enough.
Every empty seat at a concert, a game, motorsports, or a play is a missed opportunity to say thanks to a veteran and service member. We can help. We can give our veterans a special event where they too can create their own cherished memories. Find out how by visiting www.vettix.org. That's www.vettix.org. Find out how you can make a difference in a veteran's life.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, I asked you who is your pick to win today's Lecomte at the Fairgrounds, and so far Tappett's Conquest running away with the voting. 42% of you saying it's Tappett's Conquest who will be standing in the winner's circle later this afternoon. You can keep those votes coming at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, and you can email the show, Mike at horseracingradio.net. Well, happy anniversary to Pat Day, because on Monday he will celebrate an anniversary when Pat Day became the 10th rider in North American racing history to ride 6,000 winners. That's when he rode Miss Pop Snorkel to victory in the first race at Oaklawn Park. So happy anniversary to Pat Day. 2 hours down, one more to come, and it is loaded with special content. If you missed any portion of the show, you know what to do. Head back to the website. Check out the podcast at horseracingradio.net. When I come back, I'm going to kick off hour number 3, as I do every week, with this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. Scott Shapiro will join me to share his thoughts on a few races you'll want to keep an eye on later today. 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history. And at 10:30, I once again welcome trainer Dale Romans, turf writer Tim Wilkin on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. If your local station is leaving us at this time, you can continue listening to the third hour of the program nationwide on Sirius 216 XM 204 in the Louisville, Kentucky market on ESPN 680, or on your computer, phone, or tablet with our live streaming at horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum is coming up next, right after I pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
1 furlong to go. War Emblem is still there. War Emblem, and he's pulling away. He's got another gear. War Emblem coming down to the final 16. Now he's in front by 3, and now he's going to win it. War Emblem has won the Derby in front-running fashion.
Just over half a furlong to go in the Oaks. Believe you can. Surges to a lead of a length and racing towards the line. Believe you can. Wins the Oaks for Rosina Pravnik. Believe you can. Took the Oaks.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Extra Heat spurts away 3/16 out in the Fritchie. Kimberlotta running stoutly on the inside, trying to capture second from Prize Stamp, followed by Gold Mover, 1/8 of a mile to go. Extra Heat put to pressure, driving 3.5 lengths with a 16th to come now from Kimberlotta and Prize Stamp and Gold Mover. They can't beat the Heat. Extra Heat, she wins it by 2.5 in 1:22 and 3.
There's an 1/8 of a mile to go. Ganadora fights back inside. Angel Nadeshiko. Kirsten Bosch bearing down in the center. It's Ganadora or Kirsten Bosch. Kirsten Bosch coming with big strides late. Kirsten Bosch, Ganadora digging in. Here's the line. Photo finish in the La Cañada. Kirsten Bosch and Ganadora in a thriller.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Welcome back to hour number 3 of the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires, barreling into the final furlong on another very busy show for you here this morning. If you missed any portion of the first 2 hours of the program, you know what to do. Head back to our website, horseracingradio.net. Check out the podcast at your leisure. You can also do that on every major podcast platform. And really some fantastic conversations in the first 2 hours of the show. Some great guests here this morning. Larry Rivelli taking time to talk about his contender, Two Phils, going in the Lecomte Stakes later today. And then Jerry Bach talking about Chop Chop and looking ahead to her debut, her 3-year-old debut coming up in the Silverbulletday. And I pointed out earlier, if you're just joining us, I pointed out earlier that only 2 horses have used the Lecomte as a successful stepping stone to winning the Kentucky Derby later that season. Only 1 horse has won the Silverbulletday before going on to take the Kentucky Oaks, at least the Silverbulletday as we currently know it in its current fashion today, and that goes back to its predecessor, the Tiffany Lass, too. Is this the year that we see see one of these horses buck history and break through on the first Saturday in May or the first Friday in May. Time will tell, but some good prep races coming up later today, and I'm going to talk with Scott Shapiro from TwinSpires coming up momentarily for this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. He will take a look at some of those races at the fairgrounds this afternoon. Kurt Becker Stroll Through Racing History coming up at 10:20, and at 10:30 I welcome our good friends Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin to the program. They will be here for this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. I will hit them up with some challenging questions here this morning. We'll see how they handle them, and we'll see if I can get them into a little bit of a debate on that segment coming up at the end of the show. Again, 10:30 Eastern. So plenty more to come your way here in hour number 3, and it begins with this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. And as I mentioned, my good friend Scott Shapiro from TwinSpires joining me to provide you with 3 races you can keep an eye on and bet any way you like later today, but just make sure you're doing it at TwinSpires.com. Scott, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Mike. Good to be with you. Excited for a big day of racing today.
I have come up with a name for all of your followers who, wear me out on social media and wear us out via email saying, when is Scott coming back on the show? When are we going to hear Scott's picks again? I think we're going to start calling them Shapiro's Sharpies. What do you think?
I think it works, but maybe they're sharp without me if they're already Sharpies. I don't know. Maybe I'm pushing them over the line, but I'll allow it. I think it's good stuff.
Yeah, I told you in a text message earlier this week, it's not quite Franco's Italian Army, but we'll roll with it at least for this week, and we'll see how it goes. But you have come up with 3 really good races, I think really competitive races, and some different angles that you're going to talk about in those races. All 3 of those coming from the fairgrounds this afternoon. Race 10, which is a maiden special weight event for the 3-year-old boys. It'll be a 1.16 miles on the main track. Race 13, which is the Grade 3 Louisiana Stakes, and Race 14, the Grade 3 Lecomte, which, of course, is that first stepping stone on the road to the Kentucky Derby for many of these newly turned 3-year-olds. So let's kick it off with race number 10, that maiden special weight. It is a field of 10, 9 betting interests, because we do have a coupled entry. How'd you see that one, my friend?
Yeah, I'm going to look to a little bit of a price in this 2-turn event, as you mentioned, for 3-year-old males, and that's going to be number 4, Baseline Beater. Will break from the 3-hole you mentioned with the coupled entry, Mike. And I thought this Son of Flatter ran better than looks on December 8th in his first try, going 2 turns for Neil Pessin. First 2 starts came in Kentucky, going 1 turn, just doesn't have a lot of early speed, kind of a horse that just you could tell right away was going to want more ground. He got that more ground on December 8th, but raced against the flow that day. The winner was on the front end, dominated from there. They basically went 1, 2, 3 around the track. And this gelding made a 4-wide middle move on the turn, on the far turn, before really tiring late. And I just think it was a lot to ask with that move. I think with the stretch out to 2 turns, with the stretch out to 2 turns for the second time, and with that racing experience under his belt, as well as a better timed ride from Corey Lannery, who will ride this one for the first time. And we know Corey's best at saving ground early and come running late. Hoping he can do that with number 4, Baseline Beater in the 10th.
That's what I love about having you on this particular segment. You're not afraid. Joe Christofek is the same way, and James Scully, Vance Hansen, all of you, not afraid to take a stand against a favorite. And here's Baseline Beater at 8-1, a horse who has never hit the board in 3 lifetime tries, but you're thinking today could be the day to put it all together. And that's what you're really looking for when you're betting these races. You want to find value.
Sure. The first thing I always try to do is look for beatable favorites on a card, and I think Mobster, the number 8, the 3-1 favorite in here, is just that. He's run some good races. He's hit the board in all 3, but well beaten in the money efforts can often lead to a horse getting well overbet in their next spot, and I think that's going to be the case here. And I just like the way Baseline Beater sets up in this spot. I think he's better than what we've seen thus far, particularly in that first 2-turn effort last month.
The entry of Fightin' Ready and Silver Bull expected to take some money too. They're 9-2 on the morning line. Whether both of them start remains to be seen, but they certainly could. They're 2 different trainers, 2 different ownership groups. Tell me about those 2 horses. Do you think either of those 2 has the ability to be in the mix in this spot?
I do. I think the 1A Silver Bull is an interesting alternative to Baseline Beater. Tries 2 turns for the first time. Greg Foley, West Point Thoroughbreds, the Foley barn, really not one that cares about having their horses cranked at first asking. They sprinted this one, showed no early speed, getting off to a slow start, but did show some life late. The fact they spent $145,000 for a Son of Mohammed with a modest dam side pedigree Indian Charlie mare suggests to me this horse is better than what we saw that day. Fighting Ready exits the same race as Baseline Beater. He sat third and just kind of followed the leader around the racetrack that day. If he was the solo part of the coupled entry on his own, I'd probably look to beat him as well. But getting 2 for the price of 1 in this situation, if you're getting that 9-2, isn't a bad offering.
Yeah, and West Point Thoroughbreds involved in the ownership group, the partnership group of both of those horses, Fighting Ready and Silver Bull. We'll see. Both of those are going to be players in this spot here this afternoon. But for Scott Shapiro, he will go with number 4, Baseline Beater, at odds of 8-1 under jockey Corey Lannery for trainer Neil Pessin. All right, race number 13 is the Grade 3 Louisiana Stakes. This one for the older horses. We've seen many of these over the past couple of seasons. Mile and a 16th on the main track. 9 horses. Number 8, Zozos, 3-1 on the morning line. Did they get that right?
I think they did, and after you praise me for trying to beat favorites, I'm going to come right back and tell you my best bet of the day is a morning line favorite, but I've always been a big fan of this Son of Munnings. Mike got off to a little bit of a late start to his career, rattled off 2 wins, and then ran second in the Louisiana Derby here at Fairgrounds, a good second to Epicenter that day. Was up and on that pace in the Kentucky Derby with the wide outside post of nearly 50-1 and finished 10th. All things considered, a lot of the speed horses finished a lot worse than that. Brad Cox and the owners and breeders, Barry and Joni Butzo, decided to give this horse some time after that, get him ready for a big run as a 4-year-old. And he came back very impressively as the 3-5 favorite on December 17th in a second-level allowance event, winning by nearly 3 lengths, doing so easily. I think he's set up for a career-best effort here and just really looking forward to hopefully seeing a big effort later on today, and then a big 4-year-old campaign from a 4-year-old colt that, like I said, I've always been a big fan of, even flying a little bit under the radar in the Derby last year.
Yeah, and fits the old horse for course angle, too, because Zozos loves Fairgrounds. 3 starts, 2 wins, and a second in those 3 tries over the strip. So a horse that can certainly handle that surface.
Without question. Always good to see that. I mean, literally, really, this horse, you could argue, has done nothing wrong in his career. He ran 1 race where he finished second. That was the Louisiana Derby. He lost to Epicenter. Arguably the best will be 3-year-old of the year. We'll see how that pans out. But and then in the Derby, like I said, he was caught up in that hot early pace. So no one really survived that. So and then came back and won. So, yeah, likes it here, but just in general has done very little wrong.
There is rain in the forecast in New Orleans later this afternoon. And, of course, hoping it will hold off until after the races. But the 13th race, the Louisiana, will be run later in the program, obviously. There is a chance we could have a wet track for this one. If that were to happen, Zozos has never started on a wet track. Number 1, is that a concern? And what other horses will you have your eye on if indeed it is wet?
Yeah, we'll hope that it doesn't come, but the forecast is a bit ominous. It looks like at some point there will be some precipitation. Always a concern, with horses, especially at relatively short prices that haven't raced over a given surface or, in this case, an off track. I think I'll go end up leaning on his stablemate as well if we do get an off track, and that's number 7, Forzo de Oro, who makes his second start for the Brad Cox barn. The first one came in a Tenacious when he didn't have a great trip that day in a race that ended up falling apart. It's a horse that likes to be up and on the lead, and that race came from a Happy American who's in this race as well, came from well out of it for Neil Pessin and James Graham to get the job done. Forza de Oro, 1 race over the off-going, was at Saratoga back in the summer of 2021, and it resulted in a career-best effort. He got a 108 Brisnet speed rating that day, winning by 3 lengths, beating the likes of West Will Power. So I think if it rains, I'll probably lean on both Coxes, back off a little bit on Zozos, but I still like, I'm not going to let it kind of talk me off a horse I've been excited to see, come back second off the bench.
Joined by Scott Shapiro from TwinSpires. You can catch him with all of his analysis on the television screens. He's a big TV star with Churchill Downs and does a great job down there at the fairgrounds with all the handicapping, too. He'll take number 8, Zozos, in the Grade 3 Louisiana Stakes. That is the 13th race on the program later today at the fairgrounds. Number The 14th race is the final leg of your TwinSpires triple play. And before we get to that one, I just want to remind listeners that you can go to TwinSpires.com to bet these races, and you should. And when you're there, you're not going to see a specific triple play wager, but you can play all three of these races any way you would like, the 10th, the 13th, and the 14th from the fairgrounds. And Scott Shapiro is giving you his insight into each of those three races here this morning. All right, the Grade 3 Lecomte is indeed the 14th. This is the Derby prep, the first stepping stone on the road to the Derby, which now, Scott, is only 105 days, 6 hours, 28 minutes. No, 5 hours, 28 minutes, and 40 seconds away. So we're edging closer with every second here. So who do you like in the Lecomte?
I'm going to go to number 4, Confidence Game. 8-1 on the line. I don't think we'll get 8-1, with the scratch of Itzos already, and we'll see Tapas Conquest as cross-entered. But this is a horse that is a son of Candy Ride, and it's just 2 for 5, but I can make excuses for the non-wins, including 2 back at Keeneland when he chased Lone Speed, Forbidden Secret in an allowance event that day. That was an inside speed favoring track. Confidence Game came off the pace to get second. And then after the other starts in the Iroquois, he had an absolutely brutal trip. And then in the first race, he ran into a buzzsaw in Damon's Mound. So I think Confidence Game, who had a really big effort last time, in fact, he ran faster than Coffee did in his win the same day in the stakes event, the Kentucky Jockey Club, is set for a real big effort. I love his tactical speed. I think he can be involved early and get a good trip under James Graham. And Keith Desormeaux and Graham sprung the upset last year with Call Me Midnight. I'm hoping they do so again on later on today.
Yeah, another big price, 8-1 on Confidence Game in the Lecomte would certainly be a great way to round out that triple play. I'll ask you the same question I asked you about the Louisiana, because if it's wet for the Louisiana, it's going to be wet for the Lecomte. So are there other horses in here you think could move forward if indeed the track comes up wet?
Yeah, Two Phils is the one that I almost picked in this race. I give him just as big of a chance as anybody in here. Confidence Game, just a better price. And this is a horse that's already won over the sloppy going. That was in the Street Sense when he overcame trouble into the first turn and end up winning by more than 5 lengths. So if there's an off track, I'm not going to shy away from Confidence Game, but I think Two Phils definitely moves up and has just as good a chance as anyone, like I said, even if the track is fast.
The morning line favorite is number 7, Instant Coffee for Brad Cox. He's 5-2 on the morning line. What is it about Instant Coffee that makes you think he could be vulnerable in this spot this afternoon?
He just lacks early speed. He's kind of a grinder, so you know he's going to come. You know he's going to get the distance, but I think he needs a good setup, and I just think that it's kind of an equal field in this point. He also hasn't moved forward in terms of speed figures since the debut effort at Saratoga, which is a good one. So that's always a concern. I want to see a gradual move forward as these 3-year-olds head towards the first Saturday in May, ideally.
All right, so some great value given out by Scott Shapiro in this segment here this morning. He'll go with number 4, Confidence Game, to upset the Grade 3 Lecomte. So just to recap, Scott, race number 10, the maiden special weight event, and again, these all at the fairgrounds. You'll take number 4, Baseline Beater, at odds of 8-1. The 13th race is the Grade 3 Louisiana Stakes. You'll go with the morning line favorite, number 8, Zozos, at 3-1. And then in the 14th race, the Grade 3 Lecomte, we'll go with number 4, Confidence Game, at 8-1. That sounds like one hell of a parlay.
Oh, I'd love to hit that parlay. I'll take 2 of 3 though. I'll sign off on 2 of 3. I'll give you one for second or third later today.
Yeah, watch the 2 long shots will win. The favorite, which is fine if you're betting the races.
We'll take it.
Yeah, you don't want the favorite. You want those long shots.
Exactly.
Scott, listen, man, I really appreciate the visit here this morning. It's always fun to catch up, and we will encourage people to head to TwinSpires.com to bet these races. And, of course, follow you on social media and check out all the selections and the great products that TwinSpires will be offering this weekend, too.
Appreciate that, Mike. Yep, I'll be on the simulcast feed today along with Joe Christopher, Kevin Kilroy, and, of course, John G. Dooley calling the races. Looking forward to it quite a bit.
Yeah, fantastic team right there. Scott, appreciate it, buddy. Enjoy the day. Good luck at the windows.
Thank you, Mike. You too.
All right, Scott Shapiro with this week's TwinSpires triple play. Great value, 8-1, 3-1, 8-1. Look, you catch one of the 8-1 shots, you're sitting pretty. If Scott can ever get home with 2 of them, then it's a home run. So good luck to everybody playing those races out there. And again, my thanks to Scott for taking time to provide his insight into those 3 races later this afternoon. When I come back, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history. It is a story that you absolutely will not want to miss, and I could tell you that about all of his stories, but this one is going to be pretty cool. And then at 10:30 Eastern, I ask, they answer. Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, they'll be here to debate some of the sport's hottest topics. Plenty more to come right here on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Looking for some excitement going into the new year? Laurel Park has plenty of live horse racing events to spice things up this January. The much-anticipated winter meet kicks off January 1st. Plus, we've got special MLK holiday racing on Monday, January 16th, and the Winter Carnival Stakes on Saturday, January 21st. Winter may be cold, but the racing at Laurel Park is hot. Learn more about upcoming January events by visiting laurelpark.com.
Curling, the classic sire.
They're off in the Derby City disdain. And obligatory.
And it's got to be Clariere in the Fifth Stakes. Nest, much the best. She won by better than 10 lengths in this coaching club. American Oaks, Cody's Wish, with the upset in the Fargo. And Marathon has won the Personal Ensign Stakes.
Curling, standing at Hill and Dale.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
It's essential quality and a stubborn hot rod Charlie. And the two of them putting on a match race on a furlong to run. Essential quality on the outside. Hot rod Charlie won't go away. Essential quality, too good. Essential quality has won the Belmont Stakes.
A great look back at champion Essential Quality's brilliant victory in the Belmont Stakes, which makes him your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Essential Quality, an Eclipse champion at both 2 and 3, is the only stallion in the past 25 years to win at 6 furlongs, 8.5 furlongs, 9, 10, and 12 furlongs, including that win in the Belmont Stakes, the test of the champion. Essential Quality, just imagine. Learn more about all the Darley Stallions by visiting darleyamerica.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. She was a lean bay filly, and she was so dominant over her age and sex that she was named champion filly at age 2 and again at 3. Her name was Silverbulletday. Foaled on January 22nd, 1996, Silverbulletday was by Silver Deputy out of Rokeby Rose by Tom Rolfe. Her sire won the only 2 starts of his career, having sustained a knee injury after being described as too fast for his own good. The filly's mother was a graded stakes winner on turf, while her maternal grandsire was champion 3-year-old colt of 1965. Bred by Highclere Incorporated of Jeffrey Morris and Clear Creek Farm of John Crook, Silverbulletday sold for $155,000 as a yearling. Trainer Bob Baffert, acting on the advice of Kevin and J.B. McCathan, bought the filly and signed the ticket as agent for Mike Pegram. An owner of McDonald's franchises throughout the Pacific Northwest, Pegram named Silverbulletday in honor of the nickname for his favorite brand of beer. Baffert chose to debut the filly in June of her 2-year-old year on the Stephen Foster undercard at Churchill Downs. The Baffert barn would suffer a blow that day when Silver Charm lost as the odds-on favorite in the Foster. But Silverbulletday did not disappoint, winning her debut early that afternoon by 11 lengths under jockey Shane Sellers at odds of 2-5. Returning on 2 weeks' rest, Silverbulletday won the Grade 3 debutante at Churchill under Willie Martinez, this time as the 1-5 favorite. She then went to Baffert's home base in California and won the Grade 2 Sorrento at Del Mar, where Gary Stevens rode her for the first time. Baffert had another 2-year-old filly in his barn which was grabbing headlines. Her name was Excellent Meeting, and after finishing runner-up in the Sorrento, she won the Grade 2 Del Mar Debutante, while Silverbulletday faded to finish 4th. Baffert decided to send the two fillies different directions for their final prep before the Breeders' Cup. Excellent Meeting stayed in California and won the Grade 1 Oaklawn, while Silverbulletday went to Kentucky and won the Grade 2 Alcibiades at Keeneland. Despite getting jostled in traffic on the first turn that day, Silverbulletday not only won the Alcibiades, but also broke the stakes record. And then it was time for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies at Churchill Downs. It would be the first leg of the first ever Breeders' Cup Ultra Pick 6. A crowd of 80,000 was in attendance. Silverbulletday was the 4-5 favorite, while Excellent Meeting was the 4-1 second choice. Stevens was aboard Silverbulletday, while Kent DeSormo would ride Excellent Meeting. Tom Durkin gives us the call.
And as they come to the 8th pole, Silverbulletday strikes the lead. On the outside, Excellent Meeting is now driving up to be second, and Baffert 1-2 in the juvenile fillies. At the 16th pole, it is Silverbulletday, Excellent Meeting, the final surge as they come to line. Here's the wire, the filly champion is Silverbulletday.
Durkin was right. With her half-length victory, Silverbulletday had secured the Eclipse Award as champion 2-year-old filly. Her entire juvenile campaign had been so impressive that Brookdale Farm increased the stud fee for Silver Deputy from $15,000 to $40,000. That success carried into Silverbulletday's 3-year-old campaign in 1999. She was so highly regarded that Churchill Downs included her in its first ever future wager on the Kentucky Derby, opening at odds of 10-1. But there would be no Kentucky Derby in Silverbulletday's future. Instead, there would be the Kentucky Oaks, and Baffert mapped a plan for his star filly that called for visits to New Orleans and Lexington before heading to Churchill Downs. Silverbulletday opened her 3-year-old campaign with wins in the Devona Dale and the Fairgrounds Oaks, both as the odds-on favorite, before traveling to Keeneland to capture the Grade 1 Ashland Stakes by 7 lengths in stakes record time. Grade 1 wins in the Kentucky Oaks, the Alabama, and the Gazelle would help carry Silverbulletday to another championship title, joining Ruffian, Open Mind, and Go for Wand as fillies to win the Eclipse Award at both age 2 and age 3. Not even an off-the-board finish against males in the Belmont Stakes could diminish the respect which she had earned. Retired from racing the following year, Silverbulletday concluded her career with 15 wins and $3 million in earnings. Despite not producing a stakes winner from 15 foals, Silverbulletday became the granddam of Grade 1 winner Shakin' It Up. She produced her final foal in 2018. A journalist once said that Silverbulletday had a beautiful bounce to her walk and that she always looked cool and professional. Baffert spoke of her athletic movement. Assistant trainer April Mayberry called her bold. And Stevens said she could go from 5th to 1st in the span of 4 jumps. We remember 2-time Eclipse champion Silverbulletday. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
And once again, my thanks to Kurt and to Keeneland for making those segments possible each and every week. If you have missed any of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, all you have to do is head back over to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can check out the special podcast page dedicated to those stories and listen to every single one. There have been some amazing ones. Go back and listen at horseracingradio.net. When I come back, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, they will be here. It is this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed for Sales, Kentucky.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in Heart of Bluegrass Country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
New to Coolmore America for 2023 is Jack Christopher. A son of top sire Munnings and a three-time Grade 1 winner, Jack Christopher was an 8 3/4 length winner on debut at Saratoga at 2 before winning the Grade 1 Champagne with a whopping 102 Beyer. His 3-year-old campaign included wins in the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile, the Grade 1 Woody Stevens by 10 lengths, and the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkins. Jack Christopher stands at an introductory fee of $45,000. Call the team at Ashford today to book your mare before he fills up.
Eclipse champion Blaine ranks among the nation's top sires at a fraction of the price. His recent top runners include these standout performers. With success on the track and success in the ring, this proven son of Arch annually ranks among America's top value sires. Blaine, standing at Claiborne Farm.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
And they're into the stretch, and it's Warriors charge off the turn in front. Another twist of fate. Here's War of Will, and he got through an opening on the inside at the gate pole. Owendale is storming down the center of the track, but it's War of Will coming down to the 16th pole in front. In front by 2 lengths late. A late charge from Longshot Everfast to the inside too, but nothing stood in his way. War of Will won the Preakness. And then it was Everfast in a photo with Owendale, followed by Warriors Charge, and a final time of 1 minute 54.15 seconds. Today was the day for War of Will.
Well, was it ever the day for War of Will? Larry Colmus with the call of the Preakness Stakes in 2019. War of Will, one of several big-name horses to win the Lecomte Stakes early in his 3-year-old season. But would he be the top choice if you were starting a stable featuring past winners of the Lecomte? Plus, which international star, Frankie Dettori or Kazushi Kimura, will end up winning more races at the current Santa Anita meet? And did the Kentucky Racing Commission make a decision this past week that will drive more trainers out of the business? We're going to talk about those topics and much, much more coming up on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin. It's all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business, and it all starts just 30 seconds from right now.
Learn the business of horses in the world's only accredited equine business program, the University of Louisville Equine Business Program. The University of Louisville has a legacy of excellence educating and developing industry leaders for over 35 years. Classes are taught by industry experts in state-of-the-art facilities located in the heartland of America's equine industry. The University of Louisville Equine Business Program. When it comes to horses, we mean business. For more information, visit business.louisville.edu/equine.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to begin, as we typically like to do, with a business topic, some of the top business news coming out this week. And this development could have a significant business impact for a lot of people. On Tuesday, the Rules Committee of the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission unanimously advanced a motion that will allow trainers to run 2 horses in an overnight race without having one of those horses lose preference when a race is overdrawn. Horse racing Twitter exploded over the news, saying it's another strike against trainers with small stables. So, Dale, I'm going to come to you first, and I'm going to ask you guys, should trainers with smaller stables be concerned about this decision?
First of all, absolutely not. Anybody writing that doesn't have a clue what they're talking about. Listen, this rule, the rule the way it's written now, or was written before the change the other day, was only in effect for the last year. and it didn't hurt any lower trainers or smaller trainers. There's a system in place for the horse. It's about the horse and the owner. Trainers are paid employees. If there's a system in place for the order of preference in which horses get in oversubscribed races. So if you run in a lower claiming race, you're not going to get into a straight maiden race because you're not going to have preference after you drop below a certain level to knock someone out who probably is a better contender. But the biggest preference order is the first day of the meet, we have to have our full papers on file with the racing office. That gives you a 0 date. If you run on the first day, then you go to the bottom of the totem pole, the horse does, to get in for the next oversubscribed race. So a horse that wasn't able to get in gets back in. There's a good system in place to make it flow. What they've changed back to, because we only had the rule in place for a year, they changed back to a trainer can enter 2 horses for 2 different owners in one race. No one owner can exclude another owner. So 2 horses by the same owner can't be in the race. There's no reason to penalize an owner that just happens to be in a stable that has quite a few horses, or it could happen in a 2-horse stable if you got 2 maidens, one to go into maiden allowance races. There's no reason to give a smaller outfit preference and an edge, and that's what it would be. Ironically, last year when we changed the rule to stop 2 trainers from running the same race, New York changed the rule to the way that we had it to where a trainer can run 2 horses without having to give a preference. Then we changed it to the way New York had it within the same week. Now we've changed it back to the way New York is, and it's the way it should be. I shouldn't be a paid employee of 2 of my owners and have to call one of them and tell them they can't run their horse because I got to run the other owner's horse. It's just not right for anybody, and there's already a good system in place, a checks and balances, and a preference rule that keeps everything fair and even for each horse and each owner. It's not about us trainers. We're just paid employees.
So if we're going back to an old rule, an old way of doing things, is that because the rule that was in place over the past year wasn't working?
It caused some havoc. I know several guys that got big problems because they had to call an owner and say, you're the one that can't run. And that's not fair to the owner. It's not fair to put a guy who's getting paid by an owner in that position to have to do it. I mean, it'd be like if I had to call Frank Jones and say, I can't run your maiden here because I'm going to run the all-ball maiden. That ain't going to sit real well with many people. When there's already the checks and balances to make it fair and a system in place where everybody's even and fair going into it. Don't penalize someone because they're successful. Encourage other people to be successful. And it can happen. It can actually hurt a guy with 2 horses. If I had 2 maidens and I needed to run them for each client, they're both ready to run, and I have to call one of them up and say, I can't run your horse, he'll say, well, take it across the street to this other guy. He'll run my horse. And now you only got 1 horse. It just wasn't a fair rule. It put trainers in bad positions, and it would hurt more trainers the way that we had it. It's moved back to the way it should be.
Tim Wilkin, you come at this from a completely different side of the game. What say you about this ruling?
Well, I've talked about horse racing Twitter before. It seems like whenever any kind of news comes out in horse racing and people perceive, it's going to benefit the super trainers, and these people go crazy about it. This isn't going to. I don't think it's going to benefit the super trainers. It's not going to drive the mom and pop trainers out of business. I mean, they can enter 2 horses too, but to me, it's just another overreaction of what has already kind of been in place. And these people, the so-called experts on Twitter always come out and say that the sport is catering to the super trainers, and I don't think they are.
All right, so we're going back to the way it was done. We'll see how that works out. Dale and Tim have weighed in on that first topic, and that is the business news of the week. We move on to topic number 2 now. And, guys, this one is – bear with me here. This afternoon, Fairgrounds is going to host the Grade 3 Lecomte for the 3-year-old boys and the Silverbulletday for the 3-year-old fillies. 2 Kentucky Derby winners have previously run in the Lecomte. Well, only 1 filly, Believe You Can, has used the Silverbulletday or the predecessor to that race, the Tiffany Lass, as a stepping stone to win the Kentucky Oaks. Which of those races is most likely to give us either a Derby winner or an Oaks winner later this year. Timmy?
Well, I'm going to go back to what I always say this early in the year, even though you're going to hate when I say it. I'm going to say neither of them because I don't think the Oaks winner or the Derby winner is going to come out of this race. But in playing the game that you want to play, and I'm going to play it, I'm going to say if there's going to be a winner in one of these races, I would say it would probably come out of the Lecomte. It's just so early. I mean, in this race, there's a field of 7. There was going to be 8, but the half-brother to Rachel Alexander, Itzos, is going to run tonight in the Leonidas Turfway.
Yep.
And that's so, I think that, historically, you've had horses that have competed in this race and gone on to the Derby, horses like Midnight Bourbon, War Will, Oxbow, Hard Spun, but only 2 of them, like you mentioned, Mandaloon and War Emblem are the only horses that actually won the Derby. Even though Mandaloon didn't win the Derby, he was put up for it. Epicenter was second in this race. There's been good horses that run in it, but to say that the Derby winner is going to come out of one of these races, I think is pretty far-fetched. And as far as the Silver Bullet Day, there's only been one, believe you can, in 2012. And both races look like they're both going to go through Brad Cox anyway. He's got Instant Coffee and Tappett's Conquest in the Lecomte, and he's got the favorite, and the Instant Coffee's the morning line favorite. He's got Chop Chop in the Silver Bullet Day, who looks like she's the horse to beat, but I don't know if she's going to go on to do big things in the Oaks. So I'm going to give a timid vote to the Lecomte to say that there might be a horse that comes out of that and wins the Derby.
All right, a timid vote from Tim. By the way, that Leonidas Stakes that you just referenced at Turfway Park, that is the race that Rich Strike finished 3rd in last year,
right.
And then eventually went on and upset the Kentucky Derby. So maybe wise to keep an eye on horses running there. Don't throw it out completely because it does have some history and some credence to it now that Rich Strike has gone through that race and then gone on and won the Derby. Dale, what say you?
I have to agree with him. I think the Lecomte would be more likely. I think one of the fillies down here would probably go on and be the Oaks. But Brad's horses look pretty strong in both races. So I would say I'm going to go Lecomte, but if either one of them happens, I would say it would be one of Brad's horses.
All right, it's a long shot. There's a long way to go, but we'll see how it plays out. Time will tell. Timmy taking the Philly side of things, right, Timmy? A timid vote from Timmy for the Philly side?
With the Colts.
Oh, you're going to go with the Colts. All right, so both of them going with the Colts and the Lecomte Stakes, potentially producing a Kentucky Derby winner later this season. All right, time now, as we do every week here on I Ask, They Answer, to honor our friend Nick Zito and find out if the following statements are right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
All right, guys, 3 topics to dive into here. 2 international star jockeys are calling Santa Anita home this meet. You have champion Frankie Dettori and Woodbine leading rider Kazushi Kimura. Dettori currently sits with 5 wins, while Kimura scored his first Santa Anita win and first graded stakes victory in the U.S. when he won the Grade 3 La Cañada last weekend. If I were to say Kazushi Kimura will be the one to have more wins at the end of the meet, would I be right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Dale?
Well, I think you're wrong on that one. I think Frankie's Frankie. He's probably the most famous person to ever participate in our sport worldwide, and he's that for a reason. He's one of the greatest of all time. He's got Ron Anderson as his agent. He's got Bob helping him. I think there's a no-brainer here. You're wrong on that one.
Yeah, I think you're wrong on that one too, Mike. I mean, this is the farewell tour of Dettori, who is one of the main reasons he's going to Santa Anita, because he wants to get a Derby horse. He wants to get a horse that can get him that first Derby win. And he's going to ride for the big outfits out there. And this is to take nothing away from Kimura, who's only 22 years old. I mean, this is a guy that was the Eclipse Apprentice champion in 19, and he won the Sovereign Award in Canada's Outstanding Apprentice in 18. he's a guy with a lot of talent. But if I'm going to pick one guy that I think is going to have more wins, I think it's going to be Frankie Dettori as he makes his farewell tour. And, the first stop is Santa Anita. And I think he's a guy on a mission. He wants to show the world one more time what he can do, and he still can do it. I mean, he won 3 races on opening day at Santa Anita, including one on Country Grammar, who he won with in Dubai. So, yeah, I think Frankie Dettori's 52-year-old bones are going to do fine at Santa Anita.
All right, Frankie Dettori, the choice for both Dale and Tim on that topic. Topic number 2. One of our Twitter followers brought up a very interesting point this past week, lamenting handicappers providing their top 4 selections in a race and would prefer handicappers instead to pick one horse and an alternate selection. That's it. Is that viewpoint right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right?
Timmy?
I've done this for years, and I think that's a big wrong. I mean, when you're handicapping, you're trying to give people different ways to go in each race. And, every race, has exotic wagering. You got trifectas, you got superfectas. Those, you need to get more than one horse. It's fine to have a solid opinion on who you think is going to win, but you have to also put horses in there that can fill the other slots because people make wagers on those bets. When I've been a public handicapper for years, I mean, I never encourage people to just go with what I say. I'm just there to give them information. I've told people for years that don't go by what I say. You make your own opinions. I'm just there to give you a little information from what I know. So, yeah, if you're not going to give them 4 selections, I just think that you're not serving your public well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I always considered the first 4 selections the one they like is the first one, so that they're giving you their top pick and giving you some other choices to think about because you don't know the prices, and people that go to races that don't know how to handicap, they'll use those professional selections below. Maybe you're even money on the horse that's the favorite, but you got the horse started as 15-1, so they want to take a little shot at some extra money. I think that you're wrong on that one.
I know people love when I make 4 selections in a race because that's 4 horses they can draw a line through and they don't have to worry about when they're trying to bet the race. So I'll continue to give out 4 horses that our listeners can throw out every time I make a pick. All right, I'm throwing in a bonus topic here. You guys don't know what this one is coming. I just added it right before we started the show, but I think it's one that we need to talk about. Santa Anita announced this week that they went through all of 2022 with 0, you heard me, 0 main track fatalities. But that news has not made national headlines like the rash of fatalities that occurred at Santa Anita 4 years ago. So if I were to say that this is the most critical area in which the horse racing industry needs to improve its communication to a national audience, would I be right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right?
Dale, is this it?
You're right, 100%. But, everybody likes to promote the negative. And that's what happens. When things are going bad, the dissenters are the loudest. But, yeah, we should promote the fact that things went good and that we're doing the right thing, and Santa Anita's done a good job. Between that and I think the fact that we've changed whips to a piece of styrofoam, I think that's not promoted near enough. I think those are 2 issues out there right now. All the work we're doing is to end catastrophic injuries, and the fact that whips are now styrofoam, it doesn't hurt. You can hit yourself with as hard as you want. It doesn't hurt anything. It just makes a little noise and gives a cue. Those are the 2 things I keep preaching we need to educate people on.
Yeah, I'm going to say you're right on this one too, Mike, because it seems to me that the way our society is, they rather would read about bad news than good news for some reason. Good news doesn't sell as much as bad news does. I mean, people like to criticize things rather than give out compliments, it seems to me. And I just think that's the wrong way to do it. I mean, hats off to Santa Anita for having that kind of a record after, what they went through a few years back, and they were being vilified by just about everybody. And, the fact that they haven't had any breakdowns, that should be applauded, and it should be given a lot of coverage and a lot of space in newspapers and and whatnot. So, yeah, I think you're definitely right on that.
Yeah, my take on it is if all of those national news outlets were going to report on the fatalities that occurred 4 years ago, then you better do a follow-up story and report on the progress that Santa Anita has made and serve your listeners, your viewers properly and say, hey, you know what? This organization has really made great strides in improving things, and they went through all of 2022 without a single incident. That is incredible. So kudos to Santa Anita, and it is wrong that the sport doesn't have a PR firm or a PR arm that can get the word out there on these things. We desperately need it. I do think it is the most critical area in which we can improve our sport and get the message out to the non-racing audience. All right, that's right or wrong. We'll do it all over again next week. Guys, we have one more topic before your parting shot and your final opinion of the week. And this topic involves the Lecomte Stakes. There have been some really big-name horses to win the Lecomte over the past 20 years. So we'll have a little fun. If you were starting your own stable and you could draft 3 horses from the following list of Lecomte winners, who are your first, your second, and your third round selections going to be and why? And, Timmy, I'll come to you first. I'll give you 6 horses. You both get the same 6. Hard Spun, Frisian Fire, Ron the Greek, Oxbow, War of Will, Midnight Bourbon. Of those 6, who gets your first, your second, and your third round selection?
Well, Mike, my top selection is going to be War of Will, partly because I picked him to win the Preakness. And he's one of only a handful of horses that has a Grade 1 win on dirt and turf during his career. He won nearly $2 million in his career. And, you know, if not for Maximum Security taking that turn in the Derby and really impeding him, who knows? He might have won the Derby that year. But so I'm putting him on top as my number 1. Number 2, I'm going with Hard Spun, just a hard-knocking horse for Larry Jones, 1/7/13. You know, he won he won over $2.5 million in his career. Third in the Derby, third in the Preakness, second in the Classic. I mean, he was a hard-knocking horse. I always liked his competitiveness. So he's my second pick. And my third pick is going to be Midnight Bourbon. I mean, Midnight Bourbon didn't win a lot. He only had 2 wins in his 16 race career, but he was always competitive. I mean, he was on the board 11 other times, and it's sad that he passed on at just the young age of 4. But he was also a horse that gave it everything he had all the time. So I would put him as my third pick. So it's to regroup. It's War of Will, Hard Spun, Midnight Bourbon.
Yeah, and Timmy, I'll jump in here for just a second. You mentioned Midnight Bourbon only having 2 career wins. That was a maiden special weight win at Ellis Park, and then he won the Lecomte Stakes at the Fairgrounds. That was it, but he earned more than $3.5 million with just 2 wins in his career. That's remarkable.
It is. You know, 8 of his last 11 races were Grade 1s. He was second in the Travers Preakness, Saudi Cup. Very, very hard-knocking horse.
Dale, how about you?
Now I'll take Oxbow, which didn't get a mention there. I just think he was a tough horse, and Wayne handled well, and he won the Preakness, and it was an exciting race. And I'll go War of Will second and Hard Spun third, both just good, hard-knocking horses. War of Will was a tough horse to train. He had an issue that was called string halts, where only at the gate of the walk does it bother him, but his back leg would pop up. They have a tight tendon. It's not a big deal. It doesn't bother him, but he was always interesting to watch him train. It wasn't easy for Mark. He did a great job with him, but those would be my 3.
You know, you take a look at that list of 6 that I provided to you guys over the past 20 years, it's hard to believe that race has only produced 2 Kentucky Derby winners.
It's true, but you know, my favorite Lecomte winner is Big Courage 31 years ago with Tammy Fox and Irons.
Great job working that in, Dale.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a moment that was. All right, fantastic. That wraps up the topics for today, but you guys don't get to leave yet because you have to leave me with one final point, your parting shot. And, Timmy, I'm going to come to you first this week. What is your parting shot for this Saturday morning?
My parting shot is that tomorrow is the draw for the Pegasus World Cup, one of the biggest days in Florida racing. And to me, it really kind of signals the start of the season in horse racing. And, I'm kind of bummed out that Colonel Liam won't get a chance to go for the three-peat in the turf, but he's just been retired. And I was hoping to see him run again, but he won't be.
All right, I'm going to give kudos to the Kentucky State Racing Commission. A year ago, they were fixing a problem that wasn't there. They realized they created a problem. It's a fair, level playing field for everybody. Everybody relax. I'm giving them kudos for fixing the problem they created.
All right, there's those parting shots. We're going to do this show all over again next week. Dale, I'm giving myself a demerit for not coming up with that Tammy Fox stat. We should have had Tammy on the show with us here this week.
Exactly, we should have.
All right, great stuff, guys. Appreciate it. Dale, good luck. And Timmy, enjoy the races, my friend. We'll talk next week.
All right, fellas.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. If you have a topic you want to hear Dale and Tim debate, just email that topic to me, and I'll work it in over the next couple of weeks. Mike at horseracingradio.net. I Ask, They Answer is presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. I'm back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Racing fans, Santa Anita's Classic Meet is underway, and there has never been a better time to experience world-class racing and much more at the Great Race Place. Come join us on Saturday for an outstanding 10-race card with special early first post time Saturday at 12 noon. Our main event is the $100,000 Astra Stakes for fillies and mares at the marathon distance of 1.5 miles on turf. First post time on Sunday is also at 12 noon, and fans, don't forget each Friday we offer free admission and parking, as well as $3 beers and $5 margaritas. And on each Saturday and Sunday, don't miss the first Coast to Coast Pick 5. It's a $1 minimum bet with a player-friendly 15% takeout covering 5 races from Santa Anita and Gulfstream Park. The first Coast to Coast Pick 5 will be offered each weekend throughout our Classic Meet. Located just east of Pasadena in Arcadia, Santa Anita, the Great Race Place.
In honor of all those we've lost to cancer and those still fighting and thriving, like basketball analyst and cancer champion Dick Vitale.
I want to beat cancer. I'm going to beat it. That's no doubt in my mind. I'm going to win this battle.
Defeating cancer will take all of us. Join our team to help fund game-changing research that saves lives. At the V Foundation, V is for victory over cancer. V is for victory over the odds. V is for victory over health disparities, victory over setbacks, victory over the unknown. V is for victory over giving up.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Donate to the V Foundation to join our team and help save lives.
Cancer can take away all my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind, it cannot touch my heart, and it cannot touch my soul.
100% of donations fund game-changing cancer research. Donate now to the V Foundation at v.org.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding. Whoa! Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Woohoo! Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie. So, wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Don't forget, there's still time to take advantage of the Blood Horse Magazine Winter Special offer. Right now, when you subscribe to the Thoroughbred Industry's premier monthly magazine, you'll receive a 2023 Blood Horse calendar, which is a $24.95 value, and you get it absolutely free. Plus, with your Blood Horse Magazine subscription, you'll have free membership to Blood Horse Plus, where you'll have access to behind-the-scenes exclusive videos and much, much more. Go to bloodhorse.com/winter special today to take advantage of that special offer. That's bloodhorse.com/winter special. Dale and Tim bringing it today with a couple of those topics. And I thought that last one was very interesting, trying to say, okay, you get 6 horses to choose from. You have to pick a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a third-round pick. You really can't go wrong with any of those. I think Frisian Fire probably the weak link among those 6, even though he was really good. He wasn't the caliber of a Ron the Greek, let's say, or an Oxbow, a classic winner, War of Will, a classic winner. And you look at that list and you say, my goodness, how has that race only produced 2 Kentucky Derby winners? Because those horses went on to really good careers. And we see that quite often. Look, to win the Kentucky Derby, everything has to go 100% right. How many times has a trainer or an owner or a jockey come on this show over the years and echoed those same sentiments? You can't have a straw in your path. There's only 20 horses that get the opportunity out of a gigantic foal crop every year. So the odds of even getting there are slim to none. And then you finally make it there, and only one horse can walk away with the prize. And everything has to go right, not just leading up to the race, but once the gates open. It's extremely difficult. And the fact that the Lecomte has produced 2, I guess, is good. But you would think, when you look at some of those other horses that have won the Lecomte, and how about the horses that have won the Lecomte, that finished 2nd and 3rd and disappointed there but went on to really good careers? It's a good race. And it's going to be a really good race coming up later this afternoon, too. And we'll see if Brad Cox, as Timmy said, the road goes through Brad Cox for both the Lecomte and for the Silverbulletday. We'll see if he can walk away with a couple trophies after those races later today. My thanks to all of our guests for making this show possible this morning, including Scott Shapiro, who was here at 10 o'clock Eastern with the TwinSpires Triple Play. If you missed it, head back over and check out the podcast at horseracingradio.net and on every major podcast platform. Kurt Becker for his stroll through racing history, and they answered Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin here just a short time ago. Been a lot of fun. Head to our website, horseracingradio.net, and subscribe to our weekly email newsletter to keep up with everything happening with the Horse Racing Radio Network, and follow us on social media at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. For my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studio, for Chauncey, handling all of our social media again here this morning, I'm Mike Penna. Thanks for listening to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Go Steelers!